It is 6 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. Brian Flores has sued the NFL and three teams, the Dolphins, Broncos, and Giants, alleging discrimination regarding his interview processes with Denver and New York, and his firing last month by Miami. The lawsuit is seeking class action status. Among several allegations, Flores claims that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered Flores $100,000 for every loss during the 2019 season in an attempt to incentivize him to tank the season. Tom Brady announced his retirement from the NFL yesterday on Instagram, saying he is not going to make that competitive commitment anymore. Brady won 7 Super Bowls in his 22-year career, universally regarded as the greatest quarterback of all time. College basketball last night, Tennessee defeated Texas A&M 90-80. 5 Vols posted double figures, with Kennedy Chandler leading the way with 16 points. To the NHL, Predators defeated the Canucks 4-2 at Bridgestone Arena. Philip Forsberg had 2 goals. UC Saros earned his 100th win in the Preds' final game prior to the All-Star break. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Welcome in, JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone on this Wednesday, rainy, and apparently it's not going to stop until Friday. And now we kind of crossed our fingers and hope that it doesn't get too cold tomorrow night. From what I read, it's kind of iffy, Jack, but I'm kind of thinking we're just going to get very, very, very wet over the next couple of days. 3 to 4 inches worth of rain kind of wet. So you got plans to be outside? Probably don't plan to be outside. Just hang out in the house or hang out doing whatever it is that you do. But if you're on the roads today, hopefully we can entertain you, but be safe. Maybe leave a couple of minutes early. Last time I looked, it wasn't like pounding outside in terms of the rain, but I imagine it's going to grow in intensity as the morning moves along. All right. 11-year NFL veteran, Vol for Life, Ramon Foster's here. Jonathan Schaefer's here. I'm Jason Martin, at Ramon Foster, at Schaefer on Sports, at JMart Radio, at JMart and Ramon. Plenty of things to get to on the docket today. It wasn't like a banner day in sports. Good job by the Vols getting that win over A&M last night. 90 points after scoring barely 50 on Saturday. Just shows kind of the up and down, and that's kind of what Ron said, sort of the up and down mentality of this team in terms of the way that they play. There's 2 different versions of them from what I see. One's a rock fight, and the other one's what we saw last night. And I kind of like the one we saw last night.
I text him during the game. I'm like, well, this is the other team you spoke about today, huh? Just watching that team play ball last night, I'm like, okay, the way they moved the ball, the way they rebounded offensive rebounds, the way they shot, the way they moved up and down the court. 2 totally different teams, man. And Ron is probably right. When you play like that, you're probably anywhere between 15 to 25 as far as top 25. You're a relevant team and got good players and will recruit good, but it's got to be consistency. That's what puts the what do you want to call it, blue bloods over the top every single year. It's the fact that they're consistently that good all the time. And, hey, it still go Vols, but, hey, you got to call it a spade when it comes down to what you're actually seeing on the court. Last night, really good win, though, against A&M. It's I was about to say AFC. It's an SEC win, so it all counts in the end, man. It was fun watching them last night, too.
A little bit of a roadmap for where we're headed today. Next segment, we're going to replay our conversation from yesterday's show with Ryan Clark of ESPN. If you missed that, the Brady news officially came down while he was on with us, so we were able to talk to him about that right at the tail end. But some really good stuff on the Titans and Tannehill and the margin for error and what they can do with him as a quarterback going forward. Just there's a lot in that conversation, as there always is when we have RC, so you'll want to catch that if you missed it or maybe hear it again. Mike McCarthy, Front Office Sports, will join us to talk all things sports business in the second hour of the program. Eric Cain from Sports Animal in Knoxville. We can talk to him about the A&M game, about everything that's happening there. And I want to get his thoughts on what Lane Kiffin had to say about NIL yesterday, which I found not wrong, but also kind of hilarious. And then Ink, at the end of the show, Midweek Motivation on this rainy Wednesday. So we're loaded for bear today. The biggest story, I guess, is still Tom Brady. Yesterday, ESPN pretty much shut down all their programming and just did a day-long special honoring Tom Brady. Like, everything that I saw yesterday, basically, was I even saw, like, Orlovsky breaking down film of the first Super Bowl. Like, that was a thing that was happening on television yesterday afternoon. They had Mel Kiper do his original draft grade again for Brady, updating it and all this stuff. They found it from every angle, man. Like, there's a lot of times when a famous person dies, you've already written the obituary. So you just add a couple things to it, but you have those things ready to go. That way you can get something out there quick if you're the New York Times or the Washington Post or somebody like that. Like the Betty White obit was probably already there. It probably had been done by somebody, at least in her family. But also probably had been done journalistically. So it's not like this was some shock. It was just, when was he going to retire and were you going to have to add another number to the Super Bowl total?
Yeah.
If you had told Tom Brady before the season, you guys are going to be good, but you're going to fall short of the Super Bowl, do you think he plays last year, or do you think he retires after the Super Bowl?
I think he still does. I thought he still, will still give a stab at it, because that's just who he is. That's his DNA. Heck, we talked yesterday, about his wife saying that, football is his first love type of thing, and it was time to kind of hang it up. I almost feel like a little bit of, it wasn't a forced retirement. Absolutely not. But he had to realize there was more than football outside of him. So if given the opportunity, Brady probably is definitely going to play the game and, have all the spoils that come along with it. And it's the idea of competing full time too. So I don't necessarily think that was a, he'd ever question playing the game. I think, of course, you grow in family is exactly what you needed to be. It's way more important than everything else you've ever done. So, Brady's a competitor. It's also competitive the way he drops, his retirement. So I actually thought it was comical. But some people that were just, calling Brady just selfish the way he went about it, trying to discredit, Schefter and Darlington, and then he drops the same exact news the day, a couple of days later. I just look at it like it was exactly as it was. The man wasn't ready for y'all to tell his story, and he was the one that wanted to, play the same game that they play. They get leaks and all kind of information and stuff about players all the time, players, coaches, GMs, and just the business of football all the time. And he took it upon himself to say, nah, I'm going to do it my way. And me, as sicko as I am, I enjoyed watching him pull the rug from underneath them just to say, maybe you were right,
I think there's also a possibility that he saw that story and it finally hit him. And he finally was like, wait a sec, whoa. This hit's a little different than I thought it was going to. I mean, we talked to Lee Smith and we've had the conversations as a show about what it was like to retire. And looked like Lee was ready. And it looked like you were ready because you didn't have a hope of a Super Bowl in your own mind. A couple of years ago, you felt like, the Steelers window had probably closed on the group that was there.
Yeah.
And it was probably going to be a rebuilding process. And at your age, did you want to get yourself up every week?
No.
To do that again? And the answer was no for you. Plus you had family and you had other concerns and things like that. But I still imagine that, like, for a lot of guys, especially ones that have played for, nearly half their adult life, basically. I mean, half his life. What is he? He's 44 and he's played football for 22 of them in the NFL. So he's played football way more than half his life. I imagine seeing it written or having that story in front of him for the first time saying Tom Brady retiring, reports are. I'm sure what you're saying is true, but I also think there's a possibility he just saw that and, like, his heart skipped a beat and he was just like, wait a second, do I really want to do this? Yeah. I think it's possible that he got, stage fright there for a minute. Just like, do I want to do this? Am I sure I want to do this? But he can do whatever he wants. He has exactly one story that people want to hear him tell, and that is his retirement.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was his chance to be a journalist, just to break his own story. And I do think he wanted to control his own narrative.
Yes, it's that. And I mean, we're watching other players do the exact same thing, too, when it comes down to these type of situations. The story right now, of course, is Jimmy Garoppolo about to have surgery, number one. And then he's also saying wherever team he goes to, he hopes they're ready to compete. Like, here's a guy that knows he's about to be cut. Here's a guy that knows that the city that he's playing in doesn't want him. Here's a guy that's putting out there, look, send me to the right destination. That's all I want. That's what Von Miller was asking. There's a few other players that came out and said those type of things. Look, send me anywhere, but send me to, just send me to a competitor. That's all you ever want, especially when you're an older guy, especially, when you command that type of respect. You've been in this league this long. You're a Super Bowl winner. You're a superstar. You are a billboard setter when it comes down to who you are as a player. You ask for those type of things. So Jimmy Garoppolo saying those things. I'm sure Tom Brady is feeling the exact same way too. Like you said, with his journalistic approach to his retirement. He had a 5-slide breakdown of why he retired. And, of course, people dissected it in ways that couldn't have been dissected better than a Oxford student without him mentioning the New England Patriots yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted to talk about that. I mean, obviously, we all know he played for New England, and he's talked about New England for the better part of the last 2 decades. I think that was just, well, I play for this team now. I'm going to thank them on the way out the door.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be time to talk about New England. It's the same thing as watching I don't know whether or not this reference lands for you or not, Mom, but Friends with Ross and Rachel, when Rachel was going overseas near the end of that show, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen it by now, I don't really care.
No, I haven't seen it.
She's leaving and she says goodbye to everybody. Absolutely everybody, all the other friends except Ross. And she's going to leave, and he catches her, and he's just like, how could you not say it to me? Of all people, after all we've been through, blah, 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 all this stuff. And her response is, I can't even bring myself to say it to you yet.
Wow.
She's just like, all that we've been through, you're exactly right. I can't even begin to fathom what life's going to be like without you. And I thought about that more than the other when it came to Brady yesterday, where it's just like, he can't even begin to say anything to New England yet. Like, I know there was some sour feelings on the way out and all, but not to the fans, not to Foxborough, not to all those people that repped his jerseys forever and all that other kind of stuff. I think that will come, because now all we're going to hear is Brady talk, if Brady wants to talk, because we're not going to see him play anymore, which is one of the things that we talked to Ryan Clark about at ESPN. We're going to replay that conversation for you on the other side. A lot of content about the Titans, obviously, about the Super Bowl matchup. Just a great NFL conversation with our friend RC. That on the other side. It's JMart and Ramon here on this Wednesday on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back, JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone on this Wednesday. Busy day on tap today. Eric Cain from Knoxville, National Signing Day. We'll see what else the Vols have in store and where they stack up. Definitely want to get his thoughts on what Lane Kiffin had to say about NIL, which we'll talk about as well. Mike McCarthy, Front Office Sports. Inky Johnson at the end of the show. But if you missed it yesterday, we have Ryan Clark on from ESPN, who we have on from time to time, our friend. And Tom Brady's retirement announcement on Instagram actually happened while we were having the conversation, but we got into a lot about the Titans, about Derrick Henry, about Ryan Tannehill, as well as the Super Bowl matchup. If you missed it, here's a chance to catch it. Here's Ryan Clark with us yesterday. When Joe Burrow first got to LSU, you had no love for him. Like, you didn't care. You were just like, I don't know who this dude is. At what point did the worm turn and you realize, yeah, you know what? I think I'm wrong about this guy. He might be pretty good.
I never thought he was bad. I just thought he was okay. I think it was 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in his first year. And it was also because we ran a prehistoric offense. But he still, the same way he behaves now was how he behaved then. Like, he always had this level of confidence, cockiness, sometimes arrogance. He always had that air. And, being a OG and being somebody that, played for LSU, you're looking at the production, and the attitude and the production didn't match. And so that was the issue to me. It's like, dang, this kid's acting, he's behaving, like Aaron Rodgers, but he's playing like Jimmy Garoppolo. And so, like, that was a problem. And I'm at training camp the next year watching them practice. Jamar's out there, Justin's out there, and I'm standing next to a Seattle Seahawks scout. And there are about 5 throws in the row, man, that was just stupid. Like, just amazing throws, pinpoint accurate, great velocity, moving the safety with his eyes. And me and the scout look at each other, and at the same time, we like, oh, that's how it's supposed to look. So I had actually a radio hit the same day here locally, and I told Matt Moscona, who I did the show with, I said, Joe Burrow is going to be a first-round pick.
Wow.
And then it was about, like, week 2, after they beat Texas, I believe it was, 2 or 3, and Paul Feinbaum, that's when everybody was on the Trevor train. Paul Feinbaum was saying Trevor Lawrence was the best quarterback in the country and was going to win the Heisman. And I was like, nah, man. I was like, Joe Burrow was better than him, and Joe Burrow was going to win the Heisman. And I said it that week. And it kind of just started a thing. And, like, that was kind of when everybody started to be allowed to rep LSU on TV, because I was so obnoxious about it that they couldn't stop me. So, in turn, you couldn't stop anybody else.
Yeah. So, I listened to your pivot conversation with Taylor Lewan this past week, RC. And it was a real good conversation. Really, and I was telling Shafe, too, we talked about it. I was like, it changed my perspective a little bit on him. But you asked him something as far as the quarterback goes. You were like, you see these guys playing. I think you mentioned Joe Burrow and I forget who else, Patrick Mahomes.
I mentioned Josh and Patrick.
You said, don't you wish you had one of those?
Yes,
so,
and he gave the right answer, but he absolutely does wish he had one of those.
Yeah, he does. So what does that actually mean for this NFL that we're in? We're seeing the changing of the guard with Tom, with Ben, Eli bowed out, Phillip Rivers bowed out, Drew Brees bowed out. What do you mean when you say you wish you had one of those? Because that's where the Titans are right now as far as this postseason's concerned. Number 1 overall seed get bounced out, and a lot of the fan base, of course, want to point at either the OC or the QB.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but isn't that always what it is, though?
Yeah.
The quarterback probably gets too much credit when some quarterbacks, not all, get too much credit when their team wins, and probably takes on a little too much blame depending on who they are when their team loses. You have to also look at it. Patrick Mahomes can only produce 3 points in the AFC Championship against the Cincinnati Bengals, and so, it's not that everybody plays perfect all of the time. I just think when, you sat back and got to watch Pat and Josh play at the top of their talent, right, at the most elite that they could be, it was almost like something we'd never seen, and it definitely was something we'd never seen or hadn't seen on the same night, on the same field, in such a high-stakes moment. And, when you watch that, it kind of tells you where talent is leaning at the position. And you're still going to have these guys who don't necessarily have those skill sets that are really good. Like Joe Burrow doesn't have the skill set of those two guys, but his skill set is extremely high. His intangibles are off the charts, and his belief and confidence in himself is almost like idiotic, right? To believe in yourself that much and think that you can do some of the things that they can. And so when you think about that, and when you look at, some of those quarterbacks and some of the things that it's possible for them to do, it's like, okay, if we don't have one of those, can we win?
Yeah.
And that was kind of my point. You have, and he said it on the show, Derrick Henry's the best back in football. I believe that too. In that, you also can't beat the Bengals. You can't get 1 yard on the goal line. You can't get 1 yard on 3rd and 1. You can't get 1 yard on 4th and 1. And so sometimes you need a quarterback to play you out of those things. And in that case, Ryan didn't. It doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback, but it also makes me feel like, has he hit his ceiling, right? Have we seen the best of him? And if we've seen the best of him, can you win with any less than that? And you look at the AFC, there's going to be the Herberts, there's going to be the Mahomeses, there's going to be the Allens, there's going to be the Burrows, right? And so if we have Ryan Tannehill, can we compete with those types of teams?
Wow. Yeah. In that same conversation, though, RC, we're looking at those guys you just named. And there was a guy that recently in the AFC South that said he's a generational talent. And we're watching, I don't know if it's negligence or just mismanagement of the situation in Jacksonville. How do you see this actually playing out for this young guy, man? Is he talented enough to actually bring that organization to the forefront? And I know the Titans don't want to, hear that, but of course, good players are good for the game in general, as far as Trevor Lawrence is concerned.
Yeah, I think it's hard for him right now because they're trying to find the right coach. Like, these coaching searches are seeming to me to be taking a very long time. Like, normally I feel like these teams know who the guy they want is, and they hire pretty quickly. This has been different. I do believe that Trevor Lawrence is an exceptional talent. I am not as high on Trevor Lawrence as everybody else is. I didn't believe that Trevor Lawrence was can't miss. Like, I just watched the tape. I do believe that he has some elite traits, though. Like, Trevor Lawrence is extremely athletic for his size. I think it's underrated. He can throw, he can throw a football, like Wink Martindale said about Justin Herbert. He could throw a strawberry through a spaceship or whatever the freak he said, And so, I do believe that there are some of those things. But even in that, when you watch, it shows how important an organization is. It shows how important, structure is, and those things need to happen, And so, even in that, you try to wonder, okay, what's the next step for him? And where do you get to ruining a quarterback? Like, that's the other thing. It's not necessarily about if you put everything in place. It's about if you don't put things in place, can you ruin who this guy is?
Yeah.
And it almost seems that he's too talented to be ruined. But it also doesn't mean he ever reaches his full potential, which is the only reason you draft a guy number 1 overall. And I also think the other scary part is this. You watch a guy like Justin Herbert, it didn't take long for us to know. And I don't think Justin Herbert was considered the talent that Trevor Lawrence was or is. You watch a guy like Joe Burrow, it hasn't taken us long to know. And so when I see things like that, it goes, okay, what are we really getting when he becomes, quote unquote, Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
So what's the margin for error for a Tannehill-led Titans team? You mentioned the word ceiling, Ryan, and that's something we've talked about for weeks as well. It's like, yeah, certainly he's a competent, good quarterback, but in this era, especially in the AFC, is that ever going to be good enough? Or do things at some point, it's like, how much has to be perfect for you to be able to win? It's like, oh, well, we get Julio, you're Julio away. Well, now you're a tight end away, and now you're this away. It's like, how much margin for error do the Titans have if Ryan Tannehill is their quarterback?
That's one of those. It's one of those hard things because when everybody is playing extremely well, it's like, oh, we love it here. This is a great place. When Derrick Henry's playing well, and when the Autreys and the Simmons are balling, and when Kevin Byard and Christian Fulton, when all these dudes are going crazy, it's like, we love Ryan. And then when you need him, it's like, oh, crap, we got Ryan, And I look at him, I think he's a good quarterback. I don't believe he's a great quarterback. I don't think anybody believes that. But it's not that the team's margin for error is very small. I think it's his, right? You don't necessarily get these explosive passing days for Ryan Tannehill. They're usually, efficient days, and AJ will make huge plays. But it's not that Ryan Tannehill is creating all of these things and he's running all over the field making lemonade out of Dookie. Like, he doesn't do that. You know what I mean? Maybe he can make an Arnold Palmer out of Dookie, but he sure ain't making lemonade. And so when you have those things, you have to make sure that your quarterback is in position to succeed. I don't put him in the same category as this man, but I do think it's very similar to Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Jimmy Garoppolo has won a boat ton of games. And on the other side of the spectrum is when they don't have him, they don't win games, right? And so it's something about him being under center that allows the San Francisco 49ers to play better than when he's not. But even in that, we never watch a San Francisco 49er game and go, dang, they won that game because of Jimmy. I believe once this game this weekend against Los Angeles got to a point to where we felt like Jimmy had to win it, we were like, well, they ain't going to win because this counting on Jimmy. I don't know if we're at that point with Ryan Tannehill yet, but I think we're inching really close to it. And in inching close to it, that isn't really a place you can be in this day and age of football.
With that being said, the other conversation that's kind of dropped in, Titans world has been this. Can this offense, the way it goes to Derrick Henry, or the run game specifically, the run game sets up the passing game. Is that an offense that can win in this league or win you a Super Bowl in this league in the manner in which teams are winning? Because we had a young guy in Joe Burrow that was sacked 9 times. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter because he could spin the ball down the field. Is this offense up to par with what the NFL is doing right now, RC, or they're better off just left alone?
Well, when Derrick Henry's running the football, they're pretty dang good. they can score 30 that way, 35, and I think, and then when Tannehill gets hot, it's even better. It's hard because they had so many injuries to offensive stars this year. And so, the AJs, the Julios, and, obviously Derrick Henry. And so I think it's hard to truly judge this team off of this year or off of this year's finish. And so when you look at it, the decision that you have to make from the standpoint of the executives and the organization is, how explosive do we have to be, or how perfect do we have to be to win with this current roster? And I think that's scary because what some teams have, the Cincinnati Bengals, I would guess they feel like, if everything ain't right, we can still win with Joe. We've seen them do that. I think the same thing with Kansas City, the same thing with the Buffalo. And so same thing with Los Angeles, I'm sure. And so when you have those type of teams, is that team more confident than the team that understands, okay, we can run the football, and from the run we can get into the play-action pass? The San Francisco 49ers are a post route to Emmanuel Sanders away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl 3 years back. Right? That team was heavy run. The team was heavy defense. That team was quarterback throw the ball when you need to. Now, the thing in that is, when you need to throw it, you have to make it happen. If Jimmy Garoppolo hits that pass, Jimmy Garoppolo's resume is different. Right. We think of Jimmy Garoppolo differently than we do now. But part of his perception, part of what we believe of him, is because he missed that pass. And so now every pass he misses in that moment, we go back to that same one because we see it as that's the only thing they ever ask you to do the whole year, right? They ask you to do one thing. You threw the ball 8 times in the NFC Championship. They ask you to do one thing, which is hit a wide open man in the Super Bowl, and you didn't do it. And so now that's forever his legacy. And so for the Tennessee Titans, it's how long do we have one of the best run blocking lines in football, the best back in football, the best front four in football right now, and still come up short? How long is that okay? And if we keep allowing it to be okay, how long before we don't have those other things either?
Yeah.
Well, RC, your network is reporting it right now, and Tom Brady just put it on his Instagram. He's out. He's done. The retirement is now official. How do you feel about how this has gone over the last few days? Did he just want to wait a couple of extra days, or what exactly happened here?
One, I don't, obviously I know, but I can't tell. I'll tell y'all what happened.
Yeah, I get that part.
That's like the biggest thing. I think we all start to, when you get to Tom Brady's point in life, and you have all of these outlets and all of these things that you do outside of football, when you have your own show, Man in the Arena, and you're still freaking playing, which is absolutely absurd.
Mm-hmm.
When, you have your own podcast you do every week, I think you like to control your own narrative. And Tom Brady has seemed like a control freak his entire career to me. And so I just think that news being leaked either before he wanted it leaked or in a way that he didn't want it leaked bothered him. And, it's one of those things. Tom Brady hasn't lost a lot. And I guess he was like, you know what? You ain't going to retire me until I'm ready to say I'm retired. And even if it's 2 days of being petty, I'll take these 2 days to be petty and I'll break it myself, or I say it myself. And so, it's just one of those things, man. I think once the news broke, we all knew what it was. You were just waiting for him to say it. I was kind of hoping that he took it to a new level of petty and played just to spite people. Like, I was hoping he just.
That's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm not going to retire. Since you said I'm going to retire, I'm going to play one more year. But like, this is what I say about Tom Brady. The man never was a loser. He ran out of time a few years. A couple of years he was super successful, but not as successful as the other years. And he didn't even lose to Father Time. See, this game usually retires us, right? We usually can't do it physically anymore. It's too hard to endure off seasons. It's too hard to be ready to play on Sundays. And sometimes even when we get to Sundays, we just aren't very good. Tom Brady never had that. So even in retirement, he's winning. He's winning and saying that you ain't going to kick me out. You're not going to see me get to the place of Big Ben where you talk about half a year why I should retire, or when am I going to retire, or I have to have a retirement tour. Tom Brady had one of the best seasons in football. He'll probably finish in the top 3 in MVP. And now he's saying, you know what? I'll hang it up. I've done enough. And I think that's pretty dope.
That is. He's one of the few, RC, that he has the power to actually do those types of things. And I'm actually glad to see him do it, man. It's pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
Great stuff, RC. We appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
We appreciate it, RC.
Be good.
That was Ryan Clark with us yesterday. Right as the Tom Brady news became official, even though they had been talking about it for a few days because the story had broken over the weekend. And then you had the weird little pushback deal. And then yesterday morning, Tom was able to put the message out himself, which I think is pretty much what he wanted out of that scenario. But a lot there as well about the Titans, about winning with Derrick Henry, about what Tannehill can do for you, the comparison to Garoppolo, which, look, I think a lot of people have made that comparison to some degree. Although I've said before, I'd rather have Tannehill than Jimmy Garoppolo, just in terms of what I've seen from him on the field, despite the fact that both those guys have won a lot of games for the teams that they have played for. And Garoppolo said he wants to go somewhere that's ready to win. I saw he was number 2 or 3 on the odds last night for Tampa Bay.
Oh, really?
Kyle Trask was number 1 because he's the in-house guy. And then I think Jimmy G was number 2, and then Aaron Rodgers was 3 on the numbers that I saw. I'll double check them during the break. We'll come back. We'll recap a little bit about what we talked about with RC. We are certainly going to get into the Brian Flores thing. We just haven't. There wasn't a great opportunity to do it off the top of the show, but we'll talk about that to some degree. Also, Jim Harbaugh interviewing with the Vikings today.
Supposed to be hired.
If he's interviewing with them today, I imagine he's taking that job. I can't imagine they're interviewing him not to hire him. That name is not one where I'm just going to go take a couple of flippant NFL interviews and then go back to Michigan. Like this feels like it feels like it's on third base to me.
And you know why? Because today's National Signing Day also, the second one.
Right. So the whole of it kind of tells me that things have changed for Harbaugh over the last couple of weeks, or this is an opening he didn't feel like he could pass up. I mean, I guess until it's done, it's not done. But it's a weird look to go interview right now on National Signing Day and then end up going back to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to predict it, I'd say he's going to be the next coach with the Vikings and back in the NFL next year. We'll come back. We'll talk about what we talked about with RC. It's JMart and Ramon here, 104.5 The Zone. Hey, Valentine's Day coming up, guys. Less than 2 weeks away. It's the 2nd. It's Groundhog Day today. But you don't want it to be Groundhog Day on the 14th where you've forgotten for 12 days in a row and you keep waking up and then remembering. So you got to get it taken care of. Genesis Diamonds has you covered. They've got the total package for you, helping you create the perfect Valentine's experience. We're talking a romantic gift. We're talking flowers. We're talking chocolates. We're talking dinner, all of it. They've put together the ultimate Valentine's package at Genesis. When you buy any piece of jewelry for just $99 or more, they're going to give you a bouquet of flowers from Jenny's Flowers, some awesome chocolates, and a gift card for dinner at STK Steakhouse. And when it comes to that jewelry, you know they've got your back. They pulled together some great gift ideas: rings, earrings, bracelets, pendants, bands, affordable, timeless gifts she's going to enjoy for years, so you can bring the romance and the sparkle and get it all done in one place. One-stop shopping at Genesis. Just $99 or more on a piece of jewelry. Get you the flowers, get you the chocolate, get you the gift card for dinner, all a gift from Genesis. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs. And a reminder, you want to jump in there and take advantage of this right now because, disclaimer, limited quantities. See store for details. Welcome back, JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone, lifted up by All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. The website's allfourseasonsgarages.com. Go there to learn all you can. I did, and then I got a new garage. I actually needed one because mine smoked out. You might not need one quite as desperately, but I promise you LiftMaster's better than what you got. So you need to roll in and pick it up.
How did your garage door opener die, Jason?
Yeah, you said
Not a clue, man.
You said
No
smoked
idea?
out.
Not a clue.
You have no idea. They didn't even tell you what happened or why?
Wasn't an operating issue?
No, it was.
There was no user error involved?
You didn't get a code?
I'm going Sammy Sosa, man. I do not speak English.
Who is Sammy Sosa now? You didn't get a code? I mean, our fridge almost went out this past weekend too.
Just said no, it's smoked out. There was no reasoning given.
Nah.
Certainly no explanation.
They didn't take pictures of it and like show you where the motor was smoked out? Nothing?
No, I mean, I saw when they took it down, but I mean, they certainly weren't about to. There was no reason. It was just a 20-year-old garage door opener.
So did it die under iffy circumstances, but they're calling it passing away from natural causes?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Somehow.
Certainly had nothing to do with having a new car and trying to program the garage door opener and overworking the motor, which this model couldn't handle. It certainly wasn't that.
Man, this freaking groundhog saw a shadow, man.
6 more weeks of winter, right?
6 more weeks, dog.
So did y'all know I've actually done that once?
I've been to the
Gone to
town.
Punxsutawney?
I've gone to Punxsutawney for
Or gone in a
Groundhog
hole?
Day. The answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
It was either 2002 or 2003. My wife and I went out. I think it was 2003. We went out there to Punxsutawney because I grew up 45 minutes from Punxsutawney. It was in the same district in terms of sports and all that other stuff. To this day, still one of the most bizarre, surreal experiences of my life.
Straight up.
Just people, thousands of people, just
Yeah.
in this random field, partying, haven't stopped since Friday morning or whatever.
Oh, they go that long?
Yeah, or whatever day it was. I don't even
Yeah.
remember what day it was. But, I mean, they had been partying from the day before. I remember at that time, they actually you had to park at a certain place, and they would bus you up to the location.
Yeah.
And the dude behind me, the young kid behind me was like, oh, I'm sick. I think I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to throw hands on a school bus.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? And then they're doing fireworks and they're playing the music to Star Wars and it's 4:30 in the morning. And it was by far one of the most bizarre experiences of my life.
Don't you just feel like some people drank a lot one night, like centuries ago, and were just like, hey, see that groundhog? I think he saw his shadow. We can turn that into something.
I thought you were doing a Jeff Fisher impression for a moment. I think he saw a shadow.
That'd be the only way I could do it if I wasn't trying.
Yeah.
My impression game is as deep as H. John Benjamin, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, and he's the guy that did this.
Phrasing.
Yep.
Yes.
That's right.
So
Phrasing.
So the groundhog lives in the public library.
huh?
Lives in this
Not in the ground?
habitat in the public library. Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, as far as the festivities go, like, are there like groundhog like delicacies like they're cooking? There's
In
always
terms of
something.
cooking the groundhog?
A groundhog, like, is there
No.
groundhog meat around?
No.
I didn't
Ramon,
know.
you wear these weird shoes that
And
have like
hats.
stakes on the bottom of them.
Let's not forget that. That is one way.
There's only one groundhog that gets to
See,
live.
I
The rest
made-
of them get got.
I made the argument that the groundhog always sees his shadow because of all the TV lights that are shining on the groundhog.
That's right. Understand key lights, folks.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to see
No.
its shadow.
It's always going to see a shadow.
Yeah, they wheel Punxsutawney Phil out from the library habitat once a year.
Yeah.
He's got a cane. He couldn't see his shadow now anyway because he's got cataracts.
I think the groundhog has a female friend.
Huh?
I think so. I have to double check that. I can't verify that at the moment.
They better not have National Geographic just all in the library.
There's plenty of National Geographics in the library. Why not? What difference does it make?
That's true, too.
They need to have children because eventually Phil's not going to be able to get back out there. I mean, we saw Uga at the national championship game.
Well, Uga was struggling.
Uga, man.
That's almost animal cruelty.
So Groundhog Day wasn't necessarily on the bucket list, but I went and did it, and now I can say that I've done it.
I've gone, and if you've ever, what is it? Central PA is where they are with this type of stuff.
Getting closer to it,
like
yeah.
Central
It's still
PA,
Western PA, but you're getting closer.
It's like vast and like wide open as far as just what's
Central
out
PA,
there.
Yeah,
it's
just hills and trees and all that.
If you see it, like it's one of those things you can be like on a wagon, riding into town and just see, people celebrating stuff like that's pretty much still Western Central PA parts of that city. Like they embrace older stuff like that.
Also,
man.
hometown of Hall of Fame basketball coach Chuck Daly. That's who was the Bad Boys head coach for the Pistons.
Nice.
Now where Britt Baker's from too?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, Chuck Daly was from Cain, but he coached at Punxsutawney, so I had to get that Western PA.
Coached there.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. It's you know what it is? It's just a town.
It's just a town.
It's just a town.
Yeah.
That found a gimmick that works.
I went to St. Mary's and
that was a little bit further north.
Yeah.
Yep,
I saw went through Punxsutawney. Pretty interesting little part of the country. Yeah.
Fun fact,
I didn't want to say it.
Fun fact, I saw Groundhog Day at the movies.
Groundhog Day is a great movie.
I saw it this past year.
I have a groundhog that lives under the utility shed in my backyard.
You been for real?
Oh yeah, he's lived there for years.
Ned
Ryerson?
There you go. Phil Connors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's Groundhog Day.
Well,
Maybe need to
again.
watch Groundhog Day today.
You should.
I guess it's fitting since we got ice storm on the way. 6 more weeks.
I don't know if we're getting an ice storm. I think we're getting a ton of rain over the next few days. I think from what I read, the dry air is going to stop it before we get too much of the frozen stuff before it drops to like 30. I think it's going to freeze too late.
I will say in 2022, the weathermen have been kind of spot on this year as far as what's actually come our way. So
Nash WX, man, you just don't. Those guys don't miss.
Yeah,
615-737-1045 is the telephone number. 737-1045. Coming up next hour in about 25 minutes from right now, Mike McCarthy of Front Office Sports. We'll talk everything sports business, how big the Super Bowl is going to be, the ad campaigns. Have you noticed that we're seeing companies previewing their ads for the Super Bowl during championship game weekend coming February 14th? Michelob Ultra is obviously doing something with the Big Lebowski, which is smart by them because that ought to work really well with Buscemi and all these people being involved in it. But I don't know if I need previews for your ads. I think we can probably just get to it unless it's the Bud Bowl.
I'll tell you this, it's excitement around this one though. Even my kid is just like, man, this is going to be an exciting one. And he's even talking about the halftime show.
There's a lot of buzz with the halftime.
Really?
Oh, ton of buzz with the halftime show, especially people of a certain age.
Yeah.
Our
Which
age.
would be our age.
Yeah, exactly right. It's in our wheelhouse. So we'll come back. We'll chat about Brian Flores though when we come back after the top of the hour headlines. That was the other story that broke yesterday. Not great. On all sides, it's not great. And I don't know what it means for Brian Flores going forward either. It's JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
7:03. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. Brian Flores has sued the NFL and 3 franchises, the Dolphins, Broncos, and the Giants, alleging discrimination regarding his interview process with Denver and New York and his firing last month by Miami. The lawsuit is seeking class action status. Among several allegations, Flores claims that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered Flores $100,000 for every loss during the 2019 season in an attempt to incentivize him to tank the season for better draft positioning. Tom Brady announced his retirement from the NFL yesterday on Instagram, saying he is, quote, not going to make that competitive commitment anymore, end quote. Brady won 7 Super Bowls, appeared in 9 in his 22-year career, universally regarded as the greatest quarterback of all time, if not the greatest player in NFL history. College basketball, Tennessee defeated Texas A&M 90-80. 5 Vols posted double figures, with Kennedy Chandler leading the way with 16 points. To the NHL, Predators defeated the Canucks 4-2 at Bridgestone Arena. Philip Forsberg, 2 goals. UC Saros earned his 100th win in the Preds' final game before the All-Star break. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your Over the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Hour number 2, JMart and Ramon, 1045 The Zone, lifted up by our friends at All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. 11-year NFL veteran involved for life, Ramon Foster and Jonathan Schaefer joining me. I'm Jason Martin, at Ramon Foster, at Schaefer on Sports, at JMart Radio, at JMart and Ramon. Mike McCarthy, front office sports. Next segment, we'll talk a lot of sports business with him, including obviously Super Bowl, which is the biggest business, and the NFL released the numbers. Over 100 million unique people tuned in to the championship games on Sunday. So the NFL is doing all right. It's the short version of that. Eric Cain next hour, Inky Johnson, the final hour of the show. Well, we haven't talked about this yet, but Brian Flores, former Dolphins head coach, has filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL for discrimination, claiming racism in hiring practices. And here's some of the claims from that lawsuit. You heard a little bit of it there during Schaefer's update, but a little bit more detail. In 2019, Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered to pay Flores $100,000 for every loss to improve their draft position. In late 19, early 20, Ross tried to set up illegal meetings with a prominent quarterback who was under contract with another team. In 2019, John Elway and Joe Ellis of the Broncos showed up an hour late and hung over to Brian Flores' interview, only to hire Vic Fangio soon after what he called a sham interview. The Giants decided to hire Brian Daboll as head coach 3 days prior to speaking to Brian Flores. Patriots head coach Bill Belichick accidentally broke that news to Flores that the Giants were hiring Daboll, as he accidentally texted Flores when he thought he was texting Brian Daboll. So all that is out there. NFL stated, diversity's core to everything we do. There are a few issues on which our clubs and our internal leadership team spend more time. We will defend against these claims, which are without merit. Giants released a statement saying Flores was in the conversation to be our head coach until the 11th hour. Ultimately, we hired the individual we felt was most qualified to be our next head football coach. And the Broncos said, look, when we interviewed Brian Flores on January 5th, 2019, it started at 7:30 on time in Rhode Island, lasted 3.5 hours with 5 Broncos executives in attendance. There's a lot here. The only thing I thought of when I saw this was, I don't want any of this to be true, but if it's not, Brian Flores has put himself in a spot where how in the world does he end up a head coach now? Like this whole thing is definitely scorched earth, napalm. If some of this stuff is true, it's troubling to say the least. But this thing got really out of control and really personal really fast, because we were hearing totally different stories about Brian Flores less than a month ago about how he, checked on Vrabel and checked on the Titans last year. during the COVID situation. He was one of the only people that reached out with real sympathy to Vrabel. And of course, they had time together and knew each other and all this other kind of stuff. But you had heard that there were some classy things about Brian Flores. This right here, because I mean, the NFL came out and said, "Look, these things are without merit." So this ain't pretty, Mon.
No, it ain't. And like you said, on either side, as far as what's what, that's the thing about these type of lawsuits or any kind of lawsuit is what can you prove? But looking at the position that Brian Flores is in, it's career suicide as far as him ever wanting to be a head coach again, which I can tell he wants to be a head coach. He's talented enough to be one, and he says, that's a very strong passion of his too. And guess what? He's somewhat good at it as a coordinator and as a head coach. I know, and when that conversation came out about that 2019 season, I went back and looked at it also, and they were 5-11 on the season. Started off the season 0-7, and they ended up winning 2 games against the Jets and Colts, lost 2 more against the Bills and Browns, 1 against Philly, lost against the Jets and the Giants, and then beat Cincinnati and New England in overtime, probably when New England was resting their players or something like that. It might have been, I think that was Tom's last year in New England. And also the quarterback that he's probably meeting up with, I don't know for sure what that could have been Tom Brady, with the fact that free agency was coming up for him and he wasn't going to sign back. I'm not sure if he's a Miami guy, but I'm more than sure Tom is in Florida or can go wherever the heck he wants to in the offseason. And the fact that he knew Tom, and why not go recruit Tom Brady to Miami, could have been a conversation piece. As far as Flores go, seeing this lawsuit yesterday, I think if you're shocked by it, I don't really know what to think. The Rooney Rule in itself is a checkbox rule as far as getting a guy in. The way his approach was to what he said Denver did to him, as far as if they were drunk and late and coming in there. And again, this is he said versus each other in the court of law, and it's a matter of what can you prove. Of course, can you go back and see the camera footage? Probably not that far back as far as seeing what time that they show up, as far as Elway and front office management for the Broncos. The way he feels about it, I'm sure it's very personal to him. He hates it. And you know what? Me being who I am, I absolutely hate this situation for him, because we see time and time again a guy in this position to where they are a check mark. And that's one of the worst things about being in these positions, where there's a lot of talented people out here. There's a bunch of talented coaches, and you got to ask that question. If it's so many black coaches who are assistant coaches or DCs or OCs, then how come they're not qualified enough to be a head coach? And I think that's where you get to when you look at Brian Flores and his situation. Why invite me to a meeting when you know you already have your guy? Now, if that's the issue with the Rooney Rule, then you know what? Find a way to amend it. Find a way to be better about getting people in who are qualified, who are minorities, when you're trying to go through this hiring process. Now, this isn't something to say you got to go hire minorities, but looking at the situation in which we talked about Josh McDaniels the other day and how he was hired in Denver before he should have been hired. And I'm sure there was a guy that was of a minority, any minority, that was probably as qualified as he was, and he got preference. I know he came from the New England background, but here he was again, get a second opportunity with the Colts, and he left them at the altar. Or you have, situations right now where I'm looking at a friend of mine that's probably interviewing, and I think he wants to be a NFL head coach, and Gerard Mayo, and he's young enough to where they know, he's going to take on an interview because he wants to potentially be a head coach one day. I remember having a position coach at the time that was a minority who went in for a head coaching interview. And I'm pretty cool with most of my coaches. And this coach in particular, he was just like, yeah, this is just to satisfy the rule. And I'm thinking to myself, imagine being in a position where if you don't take it, then you kind of put yourself on the outside looking in from here on out. But if you do take it and you're just the one token as far as saying, hey, we satisfied the rule, that sucks in itself. And for Flores to be in that situation where here the Giants were hiring a guy already signed, sealed, and delivered as far as they knew. Signed, sealed, and delivered as far as he knew from what Bill Belichick texted him. And I'm thinking to myself, you got to feel empty. You got to feel very less than when you know they are bringing you in for a conversation just to satisfy a rule or to say that we did our part. And that's not okay. Whatever happens to just being qualified for a job and just getting it, not because you know it's to satisfy something. No, don't do that. It's embarrassing to the league. It's just really it's a punch in the face, just being completely honest with you. Just seeing how this is.
Let me ask you this, because I know it's a touchy subject. I don't think it means you're not qualified if you're brought in for a sham interview. I think those two things are separate. I think that anybody would say Brian Flores is qualified to be a head coach, and the interview might still be a sham. I think the same thing could be true for Terrell Austin when he was interviewing, or, D'Amico Ryans was in the mix this time around. And you mentioned Gerard and all this other kind of stuff. Here's the part that I have a problem with when it comes to the Rooney Rule. If the Giants want to hire Brian Daboll, they should just be able to hire Brian Daboll. Like, I don't know what else to say. There's the only way that this gets fixed, even based on how you were just talking about it, is if more minorities end up getting these jobs. Because if they don't, then all these interviews are going to be deemed to be shams either way. Like, Brian Daboll was a hot candidate last year. He ended up staying in Buffalo another year, and now he's available, and the Giants decide, oh, wow, Brian Daboll's here. We want that guy. That's the guy that's right for us. In America, they should just be able to make that hire. The only way this gets fixed is if just the mentality changes to where people want Brian Flores first. People want these guys first. The interviews are never going to not be shams. You can put a rule and say you must interview X amount of this, or Y amount of this, or all this. My issue there is you're creating the sham. Like, if somebody wants to hire somebody for their corporation or their organization, I don't know what you're supposed to do to stop that.
I don't see that as the same right there, Jay, because this is my thing. Don't interview Brian Flores. Go interview another younger or different minority if that's the case. Brian Flores is too savvy to be your check box interview when it comes down to those type of situations. No, don't do that to him because he's savvy enough to do that. And the fact that Bill Belichick said, "Oh, my bad," that's the most telling thing about it. Is there was conversation between the Giants, Bill Belichick, and the Bills to say, "Look, you're their guy," and he texts the wrong person. If that right there doesn't say this whole situation, this interview process, the way black coaches get thrown under the bus or not interviewed, the fact that Eric Bieniemy is not hired when you had a guy like Josh McDaniels that basically crapped on two organizations, one in his coaching and management of one, and the other in the fact that he said, you know what, screw you, I'm going to go back to New England and be a coordinator and not coach you. And, of course, that right there, I think, is as shameful as what some people are going to say that the things that Eric Bieniemy did. Like, one is not better than the other when you're telling me this. And I'm not okay with that. It's the fact that right now there's one hired black NFL coach in a league that's 77% minority. I'm just trying to figure out, is there a block as far as they can't do the job? When we've been around, Byron Leftwich is one of the sharpest dudes I've ever met in my life. And the fact that he's in a position to where they either don't trust him to hire Adrian Wilson or the fact that they just love the other guy much more. Like, those are and the reason why Byron probably wants Adrian is because he has a guy that's like-minded that he can communicate with, that they know are on the same page. And that right there, again, is the power struggle of, nah, we'll let you in the door, but you can't just sit on the couch. Wipe your feet, but don't move further. And I hate that that's the mindset when it comes down to hiring guys. Again, I look at the black quarterback conversation that's always been brought up also. You know, there wasn't a huge conversation to be had about mobile quarterbacks. Let's be real, until it was more white quarterbacks that became more mobile. Like, that's where we are right now. We're talking about as far as play on the field, people who can control the organization. Like, I'm sure Michael Vick in Atlanta wasn't what they wanted as far as his image, but he was really good, and he beat the mold as far as that until he got into trouble. So it's a sham when you look at it from my perspective. Like, that text message from Bill Belichick to Flores, That right there is where the issue is. They got their guy, and they continue to just, hey, let's satisfy this rule and get a guy in the interview. That sucks as a human. That sucks from where we are right now as a nation. That sucks just in general, human to human. I don't like that. I take a person for who they are. And that's the way business should go. That's the way we should go as people. It shouldn't be one race versus another. It should be, are you good enough? And Brian Flores is good enough. And Brian Dable is too. I can't argue that. But there's a bunch of situations in which this happens to where you can only get so far. And that sucks.
So looking at who they complete interviews with, and I know we got Mike McCarthy and we're way over, but they interview Lou Anarumo, DC and Cincinnati, Dan Quinn, Brian Dable, Patrick Graham, Brian Flores. They had Leslie Frazier in twice. He's the other side of the Bills, obviously, defensive coordinator. They ended up hiring Dable. I don't know what the answer is, but I definitely respect your position on it. When we come back, Mike McCarthy of Front Office Sports, he will join us. We'll talk about sports business, what's going to happen with the Super Bowl, the ads, the money going up, everything else, and, of course, the ratings across the board. We'll be right back. It's JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. Hey, it might be cold outside, but it doesn't mean that you have to take a cold shower. Lee Company offering $500 off or special financing right now on a tankless water heater. This is something that you've been thinking about for a while, and you've heard me talking about it for months. Endless hot water at your fingertips is going to save you a ton of time. First of all, you're not standing there waiting for it to heat up. You're not waiting for it to run out as well. Which means it's going to save you energy. It's going to save you money. It's going to save you space as well. It's got everything that you need. A little bit of an investment up front, but what it can mean for your home and just for your comfort level, off the charts. $500 off or special financing on tankless water heaters this month with Lee Company. I don't want you to miss out on this great deal. Call Lee Company today, 615-567-1000. That's 615-567-1000. That's Lee Company, 567-1000, or online at leecompany.com. Welcome back. JMart and Ramon, 1045 The Zone. We're lifted up by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. They're right here in Nashville. Go to the website, allfourseasonsgarages.com. 11-year NFL veteran, ball for life, Ramon Foster joining me. I'm Jason Martin. Of course, Jonathan Schaefer with us. At Ramon Foster, at Schaefer on Sports, at JMart Radio, at JMart and Ramon. We go to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Our friend Michael McCarthy of Front Office Sports with us on the line. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good.
Pretty good. There's a lot of things happening, as there usually are. NFL put out that press release that over 100 million unique viewers tuned into Championship Sunday. Can the NFL do wrong right now? As much as people want to criticize Goodell and everything else, it seems like all the talk about people walking away from the league years ago and all this, that doesn't seem to be the case, does it?
Yeah, I don't see that being a story anymore. I mean, right now, the NFL is King Kong of TV. Nothing even comes close. Not another sport, not entertainment, not reality TV shows, not sitcoms, certainly not award shows. Is the NFL and everything else.
Yeah. Tom Brady was the NFL. He was one of the guys that was the face of the league. He announces his retirement officially yesterday. Does that affect business at all? Because quarterbacks are so important because they're the faces. They're the ones that you actually could recognize when they walk down the street. And we're getting to a spot where we've lost Drew Brees. We've lost Phillip Rivers. We just lost Ben Roethlisberger. Now we've lost Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers is probably just a couple of years away from ending his career. But at the same time, there's a great crop of young quarterbacks in this league to get excited about. So does something like a Brady retirement affect the bottom line at all for the NFL, or is no one player ever going to be as big as the league?
It's a great question. I would say it does. Brady has been such a great draw and attraction for 20 years that when he leaves, it's going to hurt ratings, and it's going to hurt the NFC package because all the younger star quarterbacks tend to be in the AFC. I'll go back. I'll give you the Peyton Manning example. Remember that a couple of years where the ratings dropped and everybody attributed it to players kneeling during the national anthem. But one of the factors to me was Peyton Manning leaving the field. He was the NFL's most popular player. And when he left, it impacted the ratings. It hurt the ratings.
Yeah. As far as, like Jay said, this entire playoff run, this super wild card weekend that was added and just the extra game and only one bye. What led to the level of competitiveness when it comes down to these games? Because I think everybody thought more games, less of a turnover as far as what it was going to look like. But every single game was pretty much a barn burner in the sense of who was going to win.
It really was. I mean, just one overtime classic after another. And again, that's why, the NFL is producing championship games with 50 million viewers. I mean, that's an unheard of number. That's 4 or 5 times the World Series or the NBA Finals. And I think it just basically comes down to parity. I mean, it's a cliche, but any given team can, win on any given Sunday. You look at the Bengals going from 2-14 to the Super Bowl. They're a perfect example of that.
Yeah, to that team. Cincinnati Bengals, what exactly is this? Like, could you have named this team, been the survivor that they have been so far going into this postseason? In your eyes, what got them to this point? Was it the best matchup? Was it actually Joe Burrow? Or was it actually, Cincinnati front office head coach actually got a team right?
I think it's number one, Joe Burrow. I think and you would know this better than I am, but it's a quarterback league. I mean, the NFL we grew up with, and you know what I mean, particularly in the Northeast, where the winters are so cold, was predicated on running the ball and defense. Mm-hmm. Now it's predicated on throwing the ball. So you know what I mean. If you could nab a Joe Burrow in the draft, you can have that kind of turnaround. Or you could, if you can get a Patrick Mahomes in the draft, you could have that kind of turnaround. Whereas the Chicago Bears continue to flounder. So I think it's that, but it's a great front office. I mean, in my home market of New York, we've had one bad front office after another for the Jets and Giants, and the results speak for themselves. Both teams are terrible.
Yeah.
Rams, Bengals, Michael, which team is more marketable? Like if the Rams win a Super Bowl, are they more marketable simply by function of being in LA, or is it Cincinnati because they're young, they're so fun, they probably capture the youth demographic as well? Like which one of these teams is better from a business perspective to actually finish this?
It's the Rams all the way. They've got the glitz, the glamour. They're in LA. They've got SoFi Stadium, the fancy schmancy stadium. They got Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford himself is a great story. Mike Mulvihill of Fox pointed out on Twitter that more people watched Matthew Stafford punch his ticket to the Super Bowl in the Detroit market than they watched their own team on Thanksgiving. I think it's the Rams all the way.
So as far as this LA, just seeing that they have. The business of the NFL, as you guys said, is good. Like these resales of the tickets and the fact that it's in LA, and I don't know if I've seen a halftime show run in the way that it's been run with what's going to come up at the halftime show in LA. Like what actually is this all about, considering the home team is playing in it also?
Yeah, what it's really about in its core is bringing LA back into the market. I mean, one of the strange things about the NFL from a business standpoint is how successful it was for decades without a team in Los Angeles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a team of their part-time. The Raiders came and they went, and the Rams were there and then they went. So, LA was this kind of huge riddle for the league. And when you see that game on Sunday and you see Leo hanging out, and in the luxury box, and all the stars coming out, it gives the NFL that glamour and prestige that the NBA had all those years with Jack courtside and all that. So I think one of the really smart business stories here is the NFL finally solving the LA problem.
Michael, in an era where a lot of us don't have to watch commercials anymore except during live sports because we're used to streaming. We're used to watching things on our own schedule, even on our own DVR. We're looking at last year, I guess Super Bowl ads were $5.6 million for 30 seconds, which I think was $187,000 a second. What I noticed this past weekend and over the last couple of weeks actually is it seems like companies are now previewing their Super Bowl ad campaigns as ad spots, as if they're like, hey, you need to pay attention. We're Michelob Ultra, and we're about to do a Big Lebowski tie-in. You need to get excited for that. I guess if you were spending almost $6 million for a 30-second ad, you want people to pay attention to it because you tell me, are ads still effective during the Super Bowl in terms of actually selling products?
Yes, and great ads are still effective during the Super Bowl. I mean, you could think about, the ads that you remember from the Super Bowl, whether it's, the Darth Vader kid turning on the car with the Force, or the Clydesdales and the Dalmatians. But I think that's also a great insight, which is advertisers used to wait until Super Bowl Sunday. They used to guard their commercials like it was, a secret intelligence. Now they tease their commercials weeks in advance. So by the time you actually see them in the commercials, there's a recognition amongst the consumers like, hey, watch this. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. I think it's a really smart strategy.
Mike, also yesterday, some stuff that kind of dropped, the Flores situation. You're in New York, and the Giants are involved in it also with the way they handle Dable and just this whole Flores situation. What's your thoughts? How do you see it unfolding? I know the league is bulletproof and something will be resolved from it, but where are you at on it?
Bombshell. This is a bombshell lawsuit, and it's a type of lawsuit that the general public can understand very, when you see those texts from Bill Belichick, confusing the two Bryans, or you saw Flores this morning on CBS this morning, and he's supposed to be on Get Up today also. You could have a lot of information for a guy who truly is putting his career on the line here. Don't forget, he's doing this while he's still interviewing for head coaching jobs. So it's a bombshell. This is going to reverberate for weeks and for months, and hopefully some real changes will come out of it.
Do you think Do you think this was a Bill Belichick? Hey, let's sink Miami. Let's sink anybody else that he has to play against. I'm saying that in a joking way, but the idea that he's a guy that texts the wrong person, as great of a quarterback, as great of a head coach he's been to the league, to everybody around, he's a guy that pretty much, I'm sure, probably ticked off Brian Flores with sending that text out.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything duplicitous about it. I think he just blew it, like a lot of people. A lot of people make mistakes on with their texts and their emails, and I think that's exactly what Belichick did. Now we all know why he doesn't use Snapface or Chatface or all his other nicknames for social media, because he's terrible at it.
So The Last Dance was obviously a huge success. And now you're saying here's a Joe Montana series, and here's Man in the Arena, and here's a lot of other stuff. I read a piece from Ethan Strauss at the House of Strauss a couple of weeks ago, basically saying a lot of these are going to crap out because they don't understand that the reason that we watched this wasn't the pandemic. It's that Michael Jordan's a completely different animal than every other athlete. Do you think there is success to be had in these docuseries about other athletes, or are people that are making these forgetting the fact that Michael Jordan's a supernova?
Michael Jordan is completely unique. There's a couple of athletes like him or like Tiger Woods that could carry that kind of docudrama. But I do agree with him. I think a lot of these things are going to fizzle out. I think a lot of them are really more vanity projects. What happens is a lot of these athletes and ex-athletes have their own production companies now and their own first look deals and everything. And, what is more fascinating a topic than to talk about themselves? But, you know what I mean? For those of us who grew up with Michael Jordan, he was such a supernova, as you say, streaking across the sky. That carried it. Also, to watch Jordan in his 50s or whatever he is now, still dissing his old rivals and laughing at them and, celebrating how he dropped 60 on their heads. It was hilarious. Great TV.
So Manningcast was, staying with TV, Manningcast was successful, like in terms of like the ratings numbers overall for Monday Night Football. It was kind of a small drip in that bucket. But are other networks trying to figure out a way to where they can do something similar with their own coverage, maybe even across sports, based on how this has gone and the fact that a lot of people enjoyed it?
Every single network wants a Manningcast. Every league wants a Manningcast. They're all working on it. Disney is working on a kids-focused NFL telecast to rival Nickelodeon. The NBA recently rolled out their version of the Manningcast, although it doesn't have the kind of celebrity power of the Mannings. Problem with trying to do a Manningcast is so much of the Manningcast depends on the chemistry between brothers. Where else are you going to find two brothers who've won it all, who are that funny and that entertaining and that smart? You saw Peyton on Saturday Night Live the other night. That might have been the funniest skit they've done in years.
Yeah.
And he's not even a professional comedian. So, those two guys are so appealing. That's really the key to the Manningcast. And that's tough to, bottle and find that chemistry somewhere else.
With the exit of these quarterbacks, as Jay kind of brought up earlier, if Joe Burrow does win the Super Bowl, does, the NFL in a sense become just as open as it's ever been with as young as these quarterbacks are? You still have Russ, you still have some intermediate type guys like Dak and just, that group. But as far as the superpowers of everybody got to go through New England and Brady, will, this situation or this Super Bowl kind of turn the key on a new regime of, look, anybody can win it?
Yes, I do think that's a great point. The league will be more wide open than it's been in 10 or 15 years. To me, it kind of feels like we're at that point when John Elway won his first Super Bowl. Remember, it was like the NFC won the Super Bowl every year, and they would beat up some hapless AFC opponent, and it was just like one NFC dynasty after another. The Giants, the Redskins, the 49ers, the Cowboys. And then all of a sudden the AFC comes along and, knocks off the Packers, and all of a sudden it's a whole new ball game. Mm-hmm. I feel that's what we're poised to see now with the NFL, and I think it's great. You know what I mean? I think people are tired of the Patriots. I think tired of dynasties that they see every year over and over. It's great to have new stars like Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah.
So, Sean Payton, is there interest in him, a widespread interest from networks to see what he can do on TV, even if he might end up going back to coaching in a couple of years?
Yeah, very much. Front Office Sports broke the story that Fox is eyeing him as Troy Aikman's potential replacement should Troy Aikman leave for Amazon. I think, Peyton is the kind of guy that they want. He's an offensive genius. It's an offensive league. He's obviously got the Super Bowl. He's got the pedigree, and he's got a good personality. He's got a good sense of humor. He's smart. He's charismatic. I think he could do very well on TV. But right now, I would say Fox is in the pole position to land him because they need him more than anybody else.
Yeah. One other one, a little out of the box, but I've read this. I don't know how many articles I've read about this in the Wall Street Journal over the past month or so. And I know you guys have written about it at Front Office Sports. What's going on with Peloton right now? They appear to be in some trouble in terms of people coming out of the pandemic, wanting to go back to gyms, stock valuation dropping off, and just some bad decision making. So what kind of shape is Peloton in right now?
It's very difficult shape right now. It's it's kind of in a free fall. Very difficult position for the company to get out of. You thought things were bad when they did that commercial with the poor hostage wife. Things are a lot worse than it is then. But again, you know what I mean. The pandemic changed so much, and we're all just kind of sitting back trying to catch up. And I think Peloton is trying to catch up too.
Oh yeah.
Good stuff, man. We always appreciate the time. Great insight as always, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Man, Jay,
Indeed.
I saw some.
That's Michael McCarthy, Front Office Sports. What'd you say, Mo?
I saw some unfavorable stuff about the Peloton seat, man, the other day. Wasn't good for the guys, man.
It is tots and pairs situations, man.
Yeah, for real.
I can only do the bike 2 or 3 days in a row before I got to take off and do the elliptical or do a run or something like that. Like, me and the seat have a constant battle.
It is. It's got to be a better way, because I had a different brand of bike before the Peloton, and that seat wasn't near as bad as that one. And I've got the seat cushion and everything. It's different.
Yeah, I got the same one you told me to get. And that thing, I'm like, I might as well take this off.
And I got riding pants with the pad. I'm like, God, dog.
Nobody wants to hear about your riding pants, Mom.
Hey, if you're a cyclist, it's normal.
615-737-1045, 737-1045. So Sean Payton, charismatic. All right.
Yeah.
I actually think they got the guy that replaced Troy Aikman in-house, and Schaefer mentioned it to us a few days ago, and I couldn't agree more. That's Greg Olson. Be right back. It's JMart and Ramon, 1045 The Zone.
Imagine if the first way we did things was the only way, just because somebody told you that's the way we've always done it. That's what happens when you sell your home too. You list it and you got to keep the show ready, because you never know when somebody want to come through for a quick look. Or you have dozens of people marching through your home that may or may not be serious about buying it anyway. And this goes on until the right buyer comes along. Well, we found a way to end that. And it's Ramon Foster. And I want to tell you what I did. I went to opendoor.com, put in my address and home info, and I got an offer back in no time, right to my email. It was no listings, no strangers, no stress. Open Door gives you a real competitive offer in minutes. Just go to opendoor.com/WGFX and get your free offer. Open Door is a new way to sell without all the hassles of a traditional home selling. You'll know what you're getting. You can decide when you want to close. Go to opendoor.com/WGFX and get your free offer today. That's opendoor.com/WGFX. Offer eligibility varies, and Open Door is represented by Open Door Brokerage, Inc., license 02061130 in California, Open Door Brokerage, LLC, and its other markets.
Welcome back. JMart and Ramon, 104.5 Zone. And thanks to Michael McCarthy at Front Office Sports. Always good to catch up with him and see what's going on in the world of sports and business, because there always is. Where were you when the Washington Commanders were born? It's now official. The Washington football team renamed the Washington Commanders this morning. They've released a video with the new uniforms and a new logo. Looks pretty good. I would agree with Joe Theismann, who said, look, people will accept Commanders as the name if they win. And I think that's right. Like, I mean, they're still going to hold on to the old nickname and even maybe even do the WFT thing for a little while. But if the Washington Commanders go out and start winning, Commanders will become old hat. Like, at some point, you'll just get used to saying it. They kept the numbers on the helmets. Love that. Kept the numbers on the helmets with a military font. The W looks pretty good from what I could tell. The numbers, I like it. Like, Rivera had made the point that they kind of wanted this thing to have a military tie-in because of the history to the city and all of that. So I think they could have done worse. I was still hoping for Washington Monuments, but I knew that was not going to happen because that was too funny for me. I've loved it since I first saw it somewhere a couple of years ago. It's like, yep, that needs to be the name. Commanders, I mean, it sounds kind of generic, but most of these names sound generic if you stopped and thought about it. Like Cowboys and all these other kinds of things. Like, a lot of these are not particularly exciting. You've just gotten used to it. So 20 years from now, nobody's really going to be like, Commanders sound stupid. Pelicans is always going to sound stupid. Yeah. Commanders just kind of sounds like just another NFL. I mean, how exciting is Lions?
Well, here's Packers, a good example. Does Commanders sound any more or less different than the Hornets did in the 90s? Because Hornets was like, oh, Hornets. Oh, yeah. Okay. But now it's just like, I look at this Commanders thing. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine.
I remember better than Cleveland Guardians.
Ooh, yes.
Actually, I'm actually not too bad on the Guardians. I like Guardians. I like Guardians better than Commanders.
Okay.
But I'll say this, though. I remember being a kid and saying, Memphis Grizzlies? That didn't make any sense to me at all as a kid. The Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, and now no Grizzlies.
I know, and now it's just
but
the team.
Here's what's funny about
it's
that.
It's the Grizz, you know?
We give Memphis no credit for anything. But I think they've taken the Grizzlies thing and they've turned it into the Grizz and Grind City.
Yeah, Grizz and Grind.
I think they've done a good job of morphing that into their own thing.
What do y'all remember the final names for the Titans before they actually came?
Pioneers.
Pioneers.
Mm-hmm. But Adams wanted Pioneers, and the NFL said no.
Stop.
He wanted Pioneers.
Oh wow,
that's true. I don't remember
if
it
had
was
a wagon train on the helmet.
I don't remember if it was Jim Wyatt or John Glennon that talked about that about a year or so ago.
The Tennessee Pioneers have died of dysentery. The Oregon Trail jokes never would have stopped.
Well, the whole Daniel Boone thing and all that. But yeah, it was going to be Pioneers, and the NFL went.
The helmets have been like the raccoon suit from Super Mario 3.
See,
and should have worn tails with their uniform.
They got rack.
T-Rack, yeah, and that's the thing.
Right.
People outside of the market, this is a valid question. People outside of the Southeast go, wait a minute, they're the Titans, so why do they have a raccoon?
Tennessee.
And in their point of view, that's a completely reasonable question.
Yeah. Rack.
I was today years old when I understood it. Because just now it finally clicked with me. I've been trying to figure out what T-Rack is for the longest.
Love T-Rack.
He's cool.
So it was a Daniel Boone tie-in. Is that legit?
Oh, with the Pioneers?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I'm not going to say
Weird.
I'm not going to say I'm 100% accurate, but I think there's truth to that. And somebody on Twitter will yell at me and let me know.
Oh, there it is. So it is the Washington Commanders. When we come back, Lane Kiffin had some things to say about NIL that are true, and also it's hilarious to even hear this discussed. We'll do that after the headlines. It's JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone.
The moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here. In honor of the big game, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if the team you pick wins. If you're not a new customer, cool. You can experience Super Bowl 56 with same-game parlays, combining multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. And the thing about DraftKings, it's safe, secure, and reliable. And so that means you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want it. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code WGFX and get 56-1 odds on either team. You can bet $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. But use the promo code WGFX at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. And you must be 21 years or older and present in Tennessee to bet. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbooks for details. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
8:02, good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. Tennessee defeated Texas A&M 90-80 yesterday in men's hoops action. 5 Vols posted double figures. Kennedy Chandler led the way with 16 points. To the ice at Bridgestone Arena, Predators 4, Canucks 2. Philip Forsberg with 2 goals. UC Soros earned his 100th win in the Preds' final game before the All-Star break. To the NFL, Brian Flores has sued the NFL and 3 teams, the Dolphins, Broncos, and Giants, alleging discrimination regarding his interview process with Denver and New York and his firing last month by Miami. The lawsuit is seeking class action status. Among several allegations, Flores claims that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered Flores $100,000 for every loss during the 2019 season in an attempt to incentivize him to tank the season and get better draft positioning. Tom Brady announced his retirement from the NFL yesterday on Instagram, saying he is, quote, not going to make that competitive commitment anymore, end quote. Brady won 7 Super Bowls in his 22-year career, universally regarded as the greatest quarterback, if not the greatest player in NFL history. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home. The Titans and the Vols, this is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Hour number 3, JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone, lifted up by All Four Seasons Garage Doors right here in the Music City. All4seasonsgarages.com. Go there to learn more. Contact them. Tell them, yeah, JMart got a lift master put into his house. He won't shut up about it. I guess I need to get the same thing. And they'll say, yes, you do. And then they'll come out and they'll change your life. 11-year NFL veteran involved for life, Ramon Foster, Jonathan Schaefer, and Jason Martin with you for another couple of hours here this morning. We do 4 every day. If you're new to the program, welcome. And where have you been?
There's
Lane
nothing else
Kiffin.
going on.
You know, they might have been busy, Jason. They got their own lives to lead, man.
I don't
They
care
got
about
stuff to do. Oh,
What
really?
is that?
Is that what we're going to do?
We do
What's
not
that
care.
got to do with me? What's that got to do with me?
What your man got to do with me?
Yeah. Yeah, there it is.
By the way, we did some research. We didn't do some research. We just simply were told, look, tell him, Shafe. This is your
here's the
sword,
deal,
man.
All right.
I
knew that T-Rack, the raccoon, was the Tennessee state animal, and that's why that's the mascot for the Tennessee Titans. I didn't explain that very well. So because of that,
that is a demerit.
and that's okay. That's the reason there. And I love T-Rack. What I'm saying is that if you're outside the market and you're just watching a game casually and you see the Titans, but you see the raccoon, you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But that's why it makes sense. That's all I'm saying.
State animal of Tennessee, the trash panda.
Yes. And there is a minor league baseball team named the Trash Pandas. I don't remember what town
I
it's
think
in.
they're in Washington.
Look,
ain't
I'm
it?
telling you, you can have Washington Commanders, Tennessee Trash Pandas.
Oh, dude. I mean, it rolls right off the tongue. I'd have all the merch. Just like
All
the
of it.
Kraken jersey. It would be all the merch.
All of
the
it.
TPs, baby. The TPs.
The TPs. The Charmans.
The Sharmans.
The Angel Sauce. The Northerns.
I never knew that. I never
The Scott.
knew.
If you just want to
Poop fest.
bleed, you can use Scott.
Oh.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin
Scott
called
Cox.
himself. Yeah. That got out of control. The Lane Kiffin called himself the Portal King and put a GIF on or a meme on Twitter of him in Joe Exotic with his face on it because he gets Jackson Dart and Michael Trigg. Obviously, Jackson Dart leaves USC as a freshman. Dude can play. Caleb Williams is going to be there, so he leaves to replace Matt Corral. That dude's pretty good. They also got TCU running back Zach Evans. Mason Brooks out of Western Kentucky, a great offensive tackle. Jared Ivey, a pass rusher out of Georgia Tech. But that's not what's as interesting as this. Lane Kiffin saying, look, he's a little concerned that players are just going to go where they're paid the most in the NIL era. He says, we don't have the same funding resources as some of these schools do for these NIL deals. It's basically dealing with different salary caps.
Right.
Now we have a sport that has completely different salary caps, and some of these schools have 5 to 10 times more than everybody else in what they can pay the players. I know nobody uses those phrases, But that is what it is. In free agency in the NFL, players usually go to the most money. Every once in a while they don't because they already have a bunch of money. These kids are 17 and 18 years old. They're going to go where they're paid the most. I'm not complaining. It just is what it is. Wherever there's things created, there's a lot of times problems people didn't think about. You just legalize paying players like people used to cheat. I joked the other day that I didn't know if Texas A&M was going to incur a luxury tax and how much they paid for their signing class. And they finished this by saying, like everything, this transfer thing's not over. Until they figure out how to do this better, you're going to see a whole other group after spring ball that leaves. This is an ongoing thing. Mm-hmm. Here's what I find pretty hilarious about this, because he's not wrong at all. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to leave after spring ball, and this is going to continue to happen. And yeah, you're probably going where you're going to get paid the most money, especially if you're 17, 18. Lane, who's going to pay you more, Ole Miss or FAU?
Ole Miss.
So where are you coaching?
Ole Miss.
Gonzaga, right? Like Mark Few stays at Gonzaga, but Gonzaga pays him one of the highest salaries in college sports. It's a private university, and they have a good bit of money.
Yeah.
Jimbo Fisher's making a ton of money. That's why he's at Texas A&M, not because he loves
Florida,
College Station, Texas. All that we are seeing, and what Lane Kiffin is saying is right here. But all right, cool. Now you do the coaches,
right?
Because it's the exact same thing.
Brian Kelly. I mean, he got a bag. Like, he left a Power 5 for another Power 5 that is very stable as far as, the university goes and what's expected. Now, I know he can throw in there, well, I wanted to compete in the, in the SEC. Yeah. But that paycheck was, I'm sure he checked in with Mrs. Kelly on that, because that was one of the things he said in the beginning, right? There's no paycheck big enough. Well, guess what LSU did? They found one. And now he's in Louisiana and talking like he's been on the bayou with the Swamp Masters or anybody. Okay? Like, that's
the Swamp Masters?
Hey, Swamp Kings, whatever you want to call them. The Troy Landry, So that's who he's out there with right now. And you know what? I don't even blame Lane. I actually applaud Lane at this, because this also gives power a little bit to the kids, because now they can decide if the situation is right. Now, again, I'm not a huge fan of the portal. I'm a huge fan of Lane exploiting it and showing that, look, if you don't get it together and tell these kids in I'll say a little bit less than situations, nobody's going to pick you up if you do leave school. So because of that, he can go get as many players as he wants to, because they hadn't actually regulated this the way they should, as far as saying, well, look, you got to make sure that you have something lined up before you jump into the portal. There's a bunch of kids right now that are in the portal who are on teams with a full scholarship that don't have a place to go. And you know what? They probably won't have a place to go unless they go from, let's say, Idaho State to friggin' Mississippi Valley State somewhere, to where it's not a whole lot of funding and you got to ride buses to games. Yeah, you get to play and you start, but I'd much rather compete for a job at Idaho State or Iowa State or at Tennessee or LSU or Louisville or Michigan State than to be trying to start at a place where I won't have as many eyes on me, or you be a big fish in a little pond. Like, that's not the game that I'm a part of. So, Lane, yes, exploit them. Give these kids more money. And you know what? Everybody that looked at this signing day this past December said to themselves, boy, Texas A&M is dropping a bag. And you know what I say to them too? Good for the kids that are getting it. I love it. Lane, exploit them until they figure out what they're going to do, because it really does disenfranchise the kids a little bit as far as them jumping into the portal when they don't have a place, but also the NCAA side of it, where it shows there was a lot of money that should have been paid out to a lot of kids that afforded the NCAA the billions of dollars that it operate upon right now.
Kiffin says, obviously, look to the people who've done it a long time. They know what they're doing. The NFL knows what they're doing. It's not open free agency all year and for a reason. You got long-term contracts for a reason. Kids can't leave at any point of any year all the time. Then he says, somehow they're going to, I bet, try to control NIL, because now you got these salary caps at places giving players millions of dollars before they ever play, and other places not being able to do that. What would the NFL look like if there were a couple of teams in the NFL where their salary cap was 10 times more than everybody else's salary cap? That's where we're headed. So they're going to have to do something. What I find interesting is this, what you just said about A&M paying and giving out the bag and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point it's just like, all right, well, how much do you want to win?
Yeah.
Like there are places that just aren't going to be able to win championships if they can't offer. They don't have the coffers that A&M does. I don't know exactly how you fix this. Like everything Kiffin is saying is right, but it's very hard to compare college athletics and just the amount of different schools and all of the budgets and everything else to billion-dollar NFL franchises.
Yeah.
Where everybody has a lot of money. Now, some have less than others. Like I get that Jerry Jones has it, but I mean, the Broncos are about to sell for a record amount of money.
Yeah.
Just as one example in the NFL, there's a lot of Middle Tennessees and things like that aren't going to be able to offer the same money as Alabama. But I mean, that's just kind of the way it is, right? Like if I'm the number one software engineer coming out of MIT, I'm probably going to end up working somewhere like Apple unless I start up my own company because Apple's going to have more money to give me. Doesn't mean that a mom and pop shop or a smaller electronics group or something like that, some startup couldn't offer me a salary, but they're probably not going to be able to get me. It's the same thing as getting a high-powered attorney in a number one firm in New York instead of, I don't know, Biloxi, Mississippi or something like that. Like, that's just kind of how it works.
It
like,
is.
The best go where the money is. That's always going to be the case. That's why Mel Tucker's getting $90-some million from Michigan State.
Yeah, buddy.
They had to pay him or they were going to lose him.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the business of sports, but it is National Signing Day.
Yeah.
Eric Cain from the Sports Animal in Knoxville will join us on the other side of this break. We'll talk about what the Vols are doing. We'll talk about what Kiffin's saying here, as well as just everything that is going on right now on a big day in college athletics. That's next. It's JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone. It is JMart and Ramon, 104.5 The Zone, lifted up by all Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. As always, 11-year NFL veteran involved for life, Ramon Foster and Jonathan Schaefer joining me. I'm Jason Martin at Ramon Foster, at Schaefer on Sports, at JMart Radio, at JMart and Ramon. National Signing Day. Somebody needs to tell Jim Harbaugh that as he's interviewing with the Vikings today. Tells me, boy, it seems like maybe he actually does want out, which I don't blame him. Like I said, if I had a chance to take an NFL job right now, I would, with the transfer portal and NIL and everything else right now, just making things. I just can't imagine trying to recruit right now. Just doesn't seem like it would be a fun life at all. But let's go to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Our friend Eric Cain at Cainer, of course, on Twitter, Locked On Vols podcast, and the Sports Animal in Knoxville. What's going on, Eric?
Hey guys, doing well. Hope you guys are as well this morning.
Yeah. So yeah, we're doing pretty well. So Lane Kiffin talked about NIL, which I found funny because he was also calling himself the Portal King over the weekend because he's able to get Jackson Dart and a couple of other solid guys. But he was talking about how it's the haves and have-nots, and you've created this tier system now where A&M has unlimited money, and there's a lot of schools that just simply can't compete, where you've got tiers in the salary cap and all of this. All that's true. It's just like, well, the best players are going to go where the money is. Right. But what's different, Cainer, than coaches going where the money is? Because I asked Mo in the last segment, who do you think was going to pay him more, Florida Atlantic or Ole Miss? And where is it that he's coaching right now?
Yeah, he's coaching in the Southeastern Conference, coaching at Ole Miss. And so, I mean, there's, I understand, when people get upset about, players leaving the transfer portal, because the transfer portal, it's so new. I mean, it's here to stay. I think the onslaught of transfer portal, early signing period, and name, image, and likeness all coming, relatively close together has just made it feel that much worse. So I understand like the frustrations and what it seems like right now and everything. But I mean, yeah, it's no different. Player wants to leave and test the waters, go see a better opportunity, plus, profit off his or her name, image, and likeness in the process. You have every right to do that, and it's no different whatsoever. And a coach leaving one Power 5 job, going to the other, Lincoln Riley saying that, hey, I don't want to compete against Alabama. I don't want to compete against Georgia every year. Let me leave Oklahoma, who's going to the SEC in a couple of years, go to the Pac-12, where I'll have a much better chance of making the college football playoff, plus get a whole lot more money. I mean, I have no issue with that. It's to each their own, right? So it just kind of is what it is in college football right now. And you're not kidding. College football coaches, they make a lot of money. Well, they might be earning every penny of it right now, because it is a tough business to try to keep up right now.
Yeah, would you want that gig? Like, I mean, I legitimately, I understand the money involved and the prestige, but gosh, you're in the SEC, so you're dealing with Nick Saban. Now you're dealing with Kirby Smart. Or you can go to the NFL, where it's not about recruits. You're not constantly on airplanes trying to talk people into gigs. Now you're dealing with local businesses and NIL and trying to lure people that way. Like, I know it's now above board instead of being below board, as some people have termed it, but it just seems like between the two, not even for a prestige reason, I would think the NFL gig right now is much preferable to being a college football coach, at least for my own sanity.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if I was living a different life and I had the opportunity to be a big-time college football coach, would I want to do it in college or would I want to do it in the National Football League? I mean, it's no contest. I go to the NFL all day, every day. Now, it's not that you're working, you're putting in the work. I mean, it's a tough job, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like if you are any type of college coach right now, it doesn't matter whatever level it is, but specifically at the Power 5, you are constantly working. You're bettering your own team, practices, meetings, all that type of stuff. You're recruiting every single day. Even when it's the dead period, you're still getting your film together and you're still, making your big boards and all that. You're constantly traveling. And I mean, you're trying to have a family, have a wife, try to raise some kids. You have to map out hours of the day, and not every day, but hours of the day, just go spend time with your family. I mean, it is, yeah, sure, the money would be fantastic, but the quality of life, in my opinion, would just be awful. And that's why, and I know you guys will probably agree with this. I mean, some coaches are just crazy, and sometimes you got to be a crazy individual that can handle all that type of stuff and want to be around that all the time. And that's just not me. I'd much rather go to the NFL, to where you're dealing with grown men, coaching obviously a long season, and then evaluating your draft board and doing things that way, than be recruiting and trying to keep up with everything going on in college football right now.
Cain, that right there, what you just said is why I would want out too. And it's because of these reasons too. As of late on my timeline on social media, I've been seeing a bunch of kids committing, but they've been preferred walk-ons. But I actually saw these same kids earlier say they were offered by certain schools also. What is this offering of scholarships to kids, but they're not even scholarships? When did this start?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been, obviously, I mean, there were preferred walk-ons when you played at Tennessee, and there's preferred walk-ons now. And I think in some rare cases, and this might change over time, but, at least from what I've seen, if you turn down scholarships from some other, Power 5 programs or just, FBS programs, maybe you just want to be at that specific school. I think at some point in time, name, image, and likeness can come into play with that and kind of offset some of that tuition costs. But that's not going to be the case for everybody, right? I saw Navy Schuler kind of come out, I guess it was last week, and say that he's linked up a name, image, and likeness deal, and that's really, really cool. But I think he's the only one from Tennessee that has at least announced that he is taking part in that. So I don't think that's the case for everybody, but it could be moving forward. Again, we're so early in this NIL era that we're still trying to figure out, how it's working, how it will affect things moving forward. Maybe you could see more guys choosing to walk on. I still think it'll be the vast minority that would choose a preferred walk-on spot and then, be able to, coop that with some NIL money. But I mean, it could be moving forward. We'll have to see. But certainly there are lots of prospects that are turning down offers from other programs and choosing to walk on somewhere else.
And today is National Signing Day, the second one. This used to be the big signing day, and now it's not. Any moves Tennessee is going to make? I know you broke an article the other day, Tennessee getting another defensive lineman. I think that was a class of 2023. But what is Tennessee looking like today to finish off this recruiting cycle so far?
Yeah, so Tennessee signed 20 guys in December, and I mean, December 15th, I think, is what the date was this past year. I mean, that's National Signing Day now, right? Yeah. I mean, everything that once was this day, at least for now, it's non-significant. Now, there's still going to be some top, 4-star, 5-star, some blue chippers out there that'll choose today, but pretty much everybody handles their business in December. So as far as Tennessee is concerned, Tennessee will sign one player today, a 2022 defensive lineman, Jason Jenkins. He is from Lawrenceville, New Jersey, about 6'6", 260. He was in on an official visit this past weekend and went ahead and committed to Tennessee. So the Volunteers will bring in him, but also, once more spots open up for Tennessee at the conclusion of this spring semester, Tennessee will be active in the portal again. Tennessee brought in, 5-6 guys in the portal last summer. I expect Tennessee to do, something to that nature again when more spots open up. They were all in. They brought in Gerald Mincy from Florida, offensive lineman. They were all in on Jared Verse and Isaiah Nair. Those two guys decided to go somewhere else, and so they kind of came up empty this window of the transfer portal. But there will be more windows, and Tennessee will be active there, once those come up.
That's what I was going to ask you about the kid from Wyoming, right? Was it Nair? What actually happened with that situation? Because I thought he was enrolled, at least is what social media told us, because they looked up his enrollment at Tennessee and he was actually enrolled in school. Did he just decide to flip and go home? I know it's ongoing recruiting at all times, but he was actually in Knoxville.
Yeah, so a lot of people are saying that Tennessee simply just struck out with the name, image, and likeness. I don't think that's the case. I think he had deals at both schools. I think they were both fine. I just from the get-go, when he entered the transfer portal, he was obviously attractive. He got tons and tons of Power 5 offers, tons of interest, and why not? He's an explosive outside wide receiver that is long and had a great year this past year. But from the get-go, it was like you thought that he was always wanting to be closer to home. He's from Arlington, Texas, right? Mm-hmm. So we thought that A&M, Baylor, Texas were going to be the players there. Ends up taking a visit to Ole Miss, taking a visit to Tennessee, committing to Tennessee. But even when he committed to Tennessee, he had never visited here. So it was kind of like, all right, this is good. Let's see how this plays out. And then, was on a trip to Ole Miss and then came to Tennessee and then said on that Sunday that, hey, Tennessee fans have nothing to worry about, but then went to Texas and ultimately flipped. I think he just wanted to play closer to home. I think that was the case from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I think once Texas finally got him on campus, they were able to seal the deal. So unfortunately, it just kind of goes to show you that, again, commitments are great, but until National Signing Day gets here, until those fax papers come in, nothing is official.
So as far as Heupel's concerned, though, because there's going to be people that, use that situation to knock his recruiting because that was the concern, can Heupel recruiting. Is that a knock, or is this just the business of football, college football right now?
I think it's more so the business of college football. Sure, you need to close that, right?
Right.
There were some fans that came out and were upset. Were saying, well, Heupel can't close. Tennessee can't compete with name, image, and likeness and all this. But, keep in mind, if we remember back on December 15th in the early signing period, Tennessee had 3 ginormous signing day wins, and running back Justin Williams, pass rusher James Pierce, and defensive lineman Tyree West. Those are 3 guys that we weren't for sure if Tennessee was going to sign on that day, and Tennessee did. And so, that same minority that might have been vocal, in a bad way towards Heupel in the program were singing the praises at that point in time. It's just the nature of college football, in my opinion, and that's something that, everybody's got to pay attention to. I mean, overall, according to Rivals, Tennessee sits at 11th in the country right now with 21 total commits, 20 of those signed. I mean, Tennessee will probably finish top 15 for the class of 2022, top 5, top 6 in the SEC. That's a job well done for Josh Heupel in year one, considering this time last year he was, a week and a half, 2 weeks on the job. His assistants weren't even in place right now. I thought this would be a tough year recruiting. It would get better as time goes on. Turns out Tennessee's got a much better class than what I even thought was possible at this point in time last year.
And that was a big concern, as Moan just mentioned. I was thinking the same thing about a lot of people weren't thrilled about the hire because they heard he couldn't recruit at Central Florida and all this other kind of stuff. Well, winning helps. How big was just being fun to watch and the exposure that Tennessee got from a positive standpoint during the regular season? And maybe the fact that we're still waiting on these sanctions, Cainer. Like, this stuff is still sitting out there. It wasn't a giant topic of discussion during the fall, like I think many of us assumed that it was going to be. All those factors had to play into Heupel's favor.
Yeah, I would agree. Whenever I'm talking to prospects, specifically offensive prospects, it's, they told us what they did at UCF. They told us what the offense is going to be like, what it was going to look like. But seeing it in action this past fall, seeing how Tennessee broke all these school records, seeing how they led in every single game, they were competitive in every single game, and I think that was something big for offensive prospects. That's something that they've told me whenever I'm working the recruiting trail. So I think that was just the fact that Tennessee was successful, was a top 11, top 11, 12 offense in the country this year. I think that played a big role. As far as these sanctions, I mean, Tennessee is self-imposing some scholarships through this cycle. How many, we're not really sure yet. Is it somewhere between 6 and 10? I believe so. And so that's why the numbers are pretty short right now. You don't have a whole lot of numbers to work with and saying, some fans are saying, why isn't Tennessee bringing in all these players from the portal? Well, you don't have enough spots right now. You got to wait till spring, after the spring semester, for more to open up. So, sure, there could be some more sanctions coming from the NCAA. Tennessee is kind of closing the book saying, hey, we're going to self-impose X amount of scholarship numbers. We're not going to self-impose a bowl game. Our investigation is over. We're trying to move on. Whatever happens from the NCAA happens. But I feel like that's almost, and maybe it shouldn't be, but I feel like that's almost kind of in the rearview mirror, and prospects really aren't even focusing on that right now. They're focusing on, hey, what we saw on the field this year, that was a whole lot of fun. What they're telling us, we're going to buy into it. And I think some players who are committing to Tennessee are kind of, feeding into that narrative and buying into what the coaches are saying.
As far as improvement at the quarterback play for next year, Hendon Hooker, what do you expect from him, man, in the early version of before spring practice, before summertime workouts, before the season kickoff? What's kind of expected for a guy in his position at UT right now?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously seeing what he did this past year, you don't want to see a drop-off. You want to see him kind of have the status quo and then maybe build on some of that. I mean, he was great in not coughing up the football, not turning the football over. He had a couple of interceptions early when he became the starter, but really he finished the season with 3 picks, and that's I mean that's a breath of fresh air considering the quarterback position at Tennessee the last couple of years. And so maybe I think for Hendon Hooker, maybe competing better against some of those better defenses. You look what he did. He looked lost at times, not the whole game, against Alabama. He looked lost at times. I felt like maybe his worst day this season was against Georgia's defense. And, of course, Georgia had an incredible defense. We talk about that all season long. How can you improve on your performances against those type of teams? But, no, I mean, you retain your quarterback, it's huge. You retain a quarterback that should be one of the better signal callers in the SEC next year, and Hendon Hooker, that is fantastic. And now you're going into year 2 in the system. This time last year, Hendon Hooker had never operated a snap out of the system, and you saw how much better he got as the season went on. And if he can take maybe just another step in year 2 in the system, who knows what the ceiling is. But, of course, he's fantastic. His ability to make smart decisions. He's accurate with the football, the way he uses his legs. All those are things we can expect to see from Hendon Hooker again this upcoming fall.
One final one on the way out. Your audience right now, look, Tennessee beat A&M last night and then lost to Texas in kind of a rock fight over the weekend. In terms of the basketballs right now, is there interest there? Like, is there any kind of fervor behind this team, or for the most part, is it pretty muted where the expectations of what could have been have kind of dropped in the eyes of a lot of the fans?
Yeah, maybe a little to the latter, what you just mentioned. I think, Tennessee's recruited so well with Rick Barnes, and so when you're seeing Tennessee drop a game, when you're seeing Kennedy Chandler turn the basketball over, not scoring more than 10 points, when you're seeing Brandon Huntley-Hatfield only getting a couple of minutes off the bench, you're kind of saying, well, what's going on here? At the end of the day, these guys are still 17, 18-year-olds trying to figure it out too. So I think, more so the engagement's there. Obviously, the interest is there. There's tons of talk every time Tennessee's out there on the basketball court. It's more so just what type of team is this going to be? Last night, they shot very, very well, 50% from the field. They shot well from 3. That's not been the case all season long. So you're seeing what this team can be when it's clicking on all cylinders, like last night offensively. It plays great defense. It didn't play great defense last night, but it's one of the best defenses in the entire country. So you know what you're going to get. You know the expectation from there. It's just kind of like, who's going to be that other guy that steps up? Pretty much it's been Santiago Vescovi all season long who's led the way, but that number 2 guy, last night it was Cumwa. Chandler had a good game last night as well. Can John Fulkerson ever bounce back? So there's still interest there, and obviously there's still talent to where this team can make a run, but it's just the inconsistencies have been so frustrating, and really the offensive liabilities at times. I think this fan base is kind of understanding, all right, well, we're in February now, so we kind of have a good feel of kind of what this team is, and ultimately it's a team with some restrictions on the offensive ends. But again, if you play like you did last night, you can compete with anybody in the country.
Yeah.
So real fast, interest level in the women's team and the success that they've had, and are you already starting to sense some degree of fervor for college baseball?
Yeah, baseball I feel like is still now. I mean, obviously there's still some baseball fans that are jacked up and ready to go. I feel like the interest in baseball is going to come when they start playing. But I mean, gosh, it should be exciting coming off the season last year. Women's basketball, oh yeah, people are getting pumped up about that. Just lost to Auburn last week, first SEC loss of the season. That was an upset loss, obviously. But what Kelly Harper's done, specifically with the injuries she's had to deal with in her lineup, and they just continue to produce and continue to win, people are excited about it. Now, she's got a 3-game stretch at the end of the regular season where it's going to be tough, but the Lady Vols, the interest is there. Everybody's excited and expecting them to, go a couple games into the NCAA tournament.
Appreciate you, Cainer.
Thanks, Cainer.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Indeed. That's Eric Cain, sports animal in Knoxville, Locked On Vols podcast. Should be part of your podcast world. When we come back, a part of Moan's world that he wishes, well, look, he's got to make up for yesterday.
I do.
You got to make up for Garrett Morris.
I went and watched Martin
and for
just
Jason
because.
Isbell being in downtown Abbey.
That was
so
good.
when we come back,
that at least was funny, though.
It was funny. Really funny. When we come back, we'll see how funny he is as we do birthdays again to end the third hour. It's JMart and Ramon 104.5. So.
Baker Burwell is the disability brokerage financial professionals can count on to deliver disability insurance education products and services. What is your most valuable asset? Your home? Think again. It is your income. And it may sound crazy, but let me explain. Say you make $150,000 a year and you're 35 years old. Even if you never get a pay raise, you'll make $4.5 million in your working lifetime. And I'm guessing your house is a little bit less than $4.5 million, even right here in Nashville. As a former pro athlete, it wasn't a thought about ensuring my income or my career. But I'm sure the same applies to you as well. We just go, people. We don't even think about that. But have you ever considered what would happen if you couldn't continue your career due to health or an injury? For 2 or 3% of your income, you can assure your pay up to 60% tax-free. Don't let your next paycheck be your last paycheck. And bad things happen to good people. We've learned that. Baker Burwell is the best resource for financial advisors and insurance agents when providing solutions in income protection. They are a trusted friend working with your trusted advisor to make sure that you are properly insured. They are local and want to see their community be protected and win. So give them a call at 615-309-5958 or visit their website at bakerburwell.com. Welcome back to JMart and Ramon as we close up this third hour, moving into the fourth one. A full day today. Just finished up with Eric Cain in Knoxville. Speaking about some UT sports here. Waiting on Jay here in a second.
Yeah,
but
let's just be real about this for a second, Ramon.
Jay's loafing.
I don't know where the hell Jay's at. Because he's at the house. He's got to do his thing. He has stepped away. We have a Zoom communication set up with him. I'm currently looking into his bonus room, wherever part of the house that may be. And now Jason's finally deciding to sit down and become a part of the show again, as he's currently putting on his headphones while he's adjusting his television. And we've only been on the air for about 2 good minutes while we've been waiting for Jason to get back to his broadcast location. And hey, welcome back, Jay. Look at you.
Welcome back, Jay Martin. Ramon.
I already did that. Take a sip of your water that I'm sure CG's spitting. Come on, man.
Yeah.
If you let your kids drink out of your water, though.
Sometimes we just do.
Yeah, you all right there? I'm glad.
You talk about my biking shorts, man. Beat it, bub.
Man. All right. Well, I'm glad you made it back. Tots and pears.
I hope your daughter drinks out of your cup real soon.
More like tots and prunes.
Oh, God. People are trying to eat breakfast now.
Man.
What are we doing here?
No.
If we're not lowbrow, we're not brow at all.
Golly, you gotta keep the music playing underneath him to block out some of his words, man.
It just ran out.
Some sports birthdays today. Jeff Okuda, 23. K1 Short is 33.
KK. I wonder why they call him KK. He's KW.
Well, maybe his middle name.
Yeah, they call him KK. Yeah, it just trips me out.
It's possible. Fozzie Whitaker, also 33. Harrison Smith, 33. Cortland Finnegan, 38.
One of the most violent fights I've ever seen on the field, man.
That wasn't a fight. That was Andre Johnson destroying him. God. And James Franklin is 50.
Hey,
he got $50 million to stay in school.
Feel like I just bought a used car.
Yeah. Just hear the man's name, and you're like, all right, fine.
All right, moving on.
Will you give me floor mats?
Yeah. Do I get mud flaps with that?
Yeah.
Hey, what about the Eddie? Do I get the Eddie Bauer package with that one?
What could Vanderbilt have been if he'd have stayed?
He left when he was going to leave.
I know.
That was only going to be the short stay hotel. And he was out.
He peaked.
He peaked.
He was going to be, 9 wins at Vanderbilt is
winning.
Yeah.
That was the best.
They'd have taken that forever. Yeah, exactly right.
You said they'd have taken that forever.
Well,
they'd have taken that forever.
Why wouldn't they? Look, I am interested to see what Clark Lee eventually does.
Me too.
I am interested. I really don't know.
I don't either.
But I'm going to be sitting back going, all right, I'll grab a
I think we all are, because this is the gist of it all is, they're student athletes, and he's in the SEC. You don't want them to continuously be this.
Okay, you're a VFL.
Yeah.
You look at Clark Lee, local guy, Notre Dame assistant coach, comes back, takes over the helm of Vanderbilt and all that. Even through the VFL glasses, do you kind of root for them a little bit? Or you're okay if they win, or kind of a little brotherish type of thing?
You know where I'm at. I'll root for baseball and friggin' basketball.
Oh, wow. So none at all.
No, and if I ever admit.
And I wasn't even trying to make it seem like you
weren't
were a
finna
fan.
set me up. Yeah, nah. Hey, screw them, because that's why.
That's the only answer we needed.
Yeah. Do I want to compete? Go ahead.
Christy Brinkley is 68.
Christy Brinkley, Full House.
Oh, my God.
Look who's talking. Christy Brinkley. Why do I know that name? Hunger Games?
Hunger Games.
Menace to Society? Nope, definitely not a Kristen in there.
I'm going to look it up now because I bet there is a Kristen in there.
I guarantee you it's not a Kristen in there.
They might call her KK.
KK, exactly.
You can look it up on your work computer, but it's going to get borderline.
It's going to get borderline.
Christy Brinkley, Victoria's Secret,
SI
swimsuit. Supermodel, SI swimsuit. I probably should have said.
Which is
Billy got her mixed up with Claudia Schiffer there. She was also
Billy Joel's
Yeah.
ex, yeah.
How old is she
Also,
again?
John Mellencamp's ex.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they dated.
Oh, didn't know that.
And she was the tease in National Lampoon's Vacation for Clark Griswold
And also
in
did
the red Corvette.
I don't know what exercise equipment apparatus it was, but
Yeah.
did all those commercials with Chuck Norris.
That's right. And lived to tell about it.
No one
Brent
crosses Chuck
Spiner
Norris.
is 73, Moan.
Brent
No
Stein-
chance.
No chance in hell.
Owner of the Yankees.
Steinbrenner. You went with Steinbrenner.
I did.
You did.
Instead of Spiner.
Yeah.
Spiner is spinal.
I broke my back.
I hit my
Spiner.
back. Let's go. Breaking Bad. Piano Man. No, Piano Man. You lied to
That's
me,
Billy Joel.
Bruce.
Billy Joel is piano.
Oh man, chat.
You know who Brent Spiner is, Shafe?
Yes. Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I never
Correct.
watched Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, there was no chance you were
John
gonna get
Michael,
that.
hey, you're late now.
How about you stop looking at the chat to cheat?
That's the only couple answers they've given me, and they've been wrong.
The good thing
and
is
late.
that chat's about 30 seconds
I
behind.
know.
So
I just heard my daughter downstairs. Josiah Mamet is 34.
Josiah Mammothus,
what?
Josiah Mamet.
Meteor Man.
I know who David Mamet is. I don't know who this
Exactly.
is.
It's his daughter.
Oh,
This is
okay.
our-
All
okay.
right.
Well, me
Yeah,
and Shafe
I-
got that together.
No, you didn't. I did.
we got.
What are you talking
You don't.
about?
You don't.
here? What
No,
are you
you're not
talking
part
about
of this,
here?
Moan.
What?
We got that answer together.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was David Mamet?
David Mamet, a guitarist for the Beatles.
Pretty great playwright. Screenwriter. I don't even know what to say, man. Right now, she's in a show called The Flight Attendant.
What?
Oh, that's the
On
Katie
HBO
Cuoco
Max.
show. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Who's
She's done a lot. She was in Girls. She's done a bunch of stuff in her career.
She is a
I
girl.
didn't think you had a chance.
Come on, man.
I just have to ask this because I imagine it's funny. Tom Smothers is 85, Mom.
Stranger Things. That sounds
Let
like
me down.
that sounds like a kid.
Well,
Like,
there
come
was no
on,
chance
man.
you were going to get that.
Tom Smothers.
Yeah. You ever heard of the Smothers Brothers?
Yeah,
He's
That's
one of them.
One of them.
but see any other.
Nope. 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 Nope.
I'm logging off of my life right now.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
I'm coming and train to go tomorrow.
What is that
Train
mean?
how? You're gonna cheat. Usually that means you're gonna cheat.
What?
What you talking? You're not in the studio.
Is
You
that-
can't confirm
Is
that.
that supposed to be a threat?
Shakira Isabel Mubarak Ripoll is 44.
Shakira.
Oh,
That's Shakira. I know that one.
yeah, it is.
Hey.
Okay, I tried.
Yep. You got that one. Those
Ooh.
hips don't lie.
I tried hard to get you out of that one. I did my best. Inky Johnson, we may need him
Oh.
in about an hour from right now to finish this up with the midweek motivation. We're wide open until then. If you haven't had a chance to get in today, we've had a lot of guests. 615-737-1045. Brian Flores is actually on TV right now live with Mike Greenberg on ESPN. So he's going to make some rounds today, and I imagine that story is not going anywhere. We'll be right back. JMart and Ramon, 1045 The Zone.
Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. Brian Flores has sued the NFL in 3 teams, the Dolphins, Broncos, and Giants, alleging discrimination regarding his interview process with Denver and New York and his firing last month by Miami. He was most recently a guest on Get Up on ESPN. The lawsuit is seeking class action status. Among the allegations, Flores claims that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered Flores $100,000 for every loss during the 2019 season, an attempt to incentivize him to tank the season for better draft positioning. Tom Brady announcing his retirement yesterday from the NFL via Instagram, saying he is not going to make that competitive commitment anymore. Brady won 7 Super Bowls in his 22-year career with the Pats and the Bucs. College basketball yesterday, Tennessee defeated Texas A&M 90-80. 5 Vols posted double figures with Kennedy Chandler leading the way with 16 points. To the NHL, Predators 4, Canucks 2. Philip Forsberg 2 goals. UC Saros earned his 100th career win. It was the Preds' final game before the All-Star break. And more news out of the NFL. Breaking news: the Washington football team has announced its new nickname. It is the Commanders. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? 4th hour, hashtag fastest 4 hours in radio is upon you, upon us. Plus, to bring it to you courtesy of All Four Seasons Garage Doors right here in Nashville, allfourseasonsgarages.com. That's where we want you to go to learn more. Inky Johnson will join us at the end of the program. Taylor Lewan will join 3HL today, I believe at 5 o'clock. So you're definitely going to want to hear that as my daughter just dropped my phone.
Also, John Robinson will be on with Buck Rising at 12:20 today.
Hey, throwing big punches today.
Yeah, J-Rob with Buck, and then Taylor Lewan this afternoon. Of course, we have Ryan Clark yesterday who did a podcast about Taylor about a week ago, somewhere in that neighborhood.
We heard a news. Heard a noise there.
Heard a baby.
Exclusive to Zone TV, CG is joining JMart.
Bring a kid to work.
Yeah, Claire Grace is hanging out for a couple of minutes here. I wanted to take a photo with her with the headphones on, but she just wanted my phone because apparently that's all she wants is just to take my phone from me at all times. If she doesn't have it, she's not happy. So that's where we are today.
Well, like a good host right now, she's trying to take the microphone. So that makes sense. She gets the business already.
I mean, why not?
Anything to shut me up, right?
Look at her staring into. She know where the camera is too. The pull cords, man. Absolutely.
So Tom Brady retired yesterday. Brian Flores is the other story out there. It's National Signing Day, of course. The Vols won last night over Texas A&M. Meanwhile, Alabama lost again. That started out a lot better than it's gone in recent days. The SEC's a meat grinder. That much we knew. I was looking at the situation with Jimmy Garoppolo and him saying, the trade that he gets, he's hoping and, they're going to be hungry. They're going to be ready to win, all of these kinds of things. I wonder who can improve their position by bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo that's a contender right now, Mo.
I think I think you just got to be either a 500 team or below the line to actually have Jimmy Garoppolo and improve your win or improve your team positioning when it comes to, the type of offensive play that you can get from them. You also got to have some weapons, meaning you got to have a couple receivers, tight end, running back, and probably a defense to support him. You got to have the makeups of what San Francisco had for Jimmy G. That's what you absolutely have to have if you're bringing him in, especially when it comes to trade value and trying to figure out what are you willing to give up for a franchise starting quarterback that also carries a price tag along with him also. So I'm not sure exactly what his numbers are as I try to get to him right now. But it's not going to be cheap. You need to have all those things. And you got to say, I at least got 2 or 3 years with Jimmy before I'm actually looking for the guy. So teams that can do it, I'd be honest. I would say Cleveland, but they're committed to Baker. Pittsburgh is probably a team that would do something like that. Miami is a team that would do something like that. I think you brought up earlier, Tampa. Carolina is a team that could do that. If Minnesota wants to get rid of Kirk Cousins, do you explore Jimmy G then? The Texans, is that another situation? What's going to happen with Deshaun? All of those things got to come into play, and those teams I feel like are teams that would be better if they had Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not going to act like he's a trash quarterback because I don't think he is. He just had brain farts to where he just goes rogue and short circuits. He can't have those situations, which is why you need a bunch of support around a guy like him.
Yeah, look, so yesterday he said to the fans at the end of a Zoom session, "It's been a hell of a ride. I love you guys. See ya." He knows he's out.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows he's out. My question would be, all right, so you're a contender. If you're a contender and you're a quarterback away, how is Jimmy Garoppolo the answer?
Oh, no, Jimmy's a free agent.
Yeah, see, that becomes the question. It's like, if the Vikings get Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know that changes much.
Yeah.
Most of the teams where he goes, is he going to change what they do? Is he a little safer than Carson Wentz? Maybe, but it's probably negligible. Both of them make mistakes. Both of them have brain farts, as you just mentioned, at the wrong time. It's much more likely that Jimmy Garoppolo goes to something like Jared Goff did than he ends up with a contender, because I don't think a contender is like, man, if we just get Jimmy G, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Oh no, I didn't say contender. If I did, I misspoke. By the way, he's got 1 year left at $24.2 million with a cap hit of 26.9. I say you either got to be a 500 team or below 500. That's where he goes to. So, like I said, Pittsburgh, that fits the mold. Miami, that fits the mold. Houston, that fits for them. It's a few teams that will or could have him in. And again, I still look at him as he's not going to win your Super Bowl. He's going to keep you relevant. He's going to bring some good qualities to your team and help develop the talent that you have on that team if you got some young receivers, But I don't see him getting over the top, although I won't disrespect him and act like he hadn't been in two NFC conference championship games.
Yeah, and had the lead in the second half in the Super Bowl.
And ticked
as well. So, I mean,
I was going to say, and ticked Tom Brady off when Bill wanted to choose him.
Pittsburgh, I could see. I don't think he's the guy that they would want for 5 years, but I could see him coming in as a bridge to give them a little bit more. I feel like they'd probably be more comfortable with that than they would anybody they have in-house right now. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe they're going to roll with Mason Rudolph, but it's probably not a long-term answer. Washington, another team that's probably still trying to figure it out.
Carolina.
The Saints. I think the Saints are going to give Jameis another chance for a healthy season
to
see what he can do, but I still don't know that he's a long-term answer. Of course, we got to figure out what happens with Russell Wilson as well. I mean, maybe Seattle would even look at him. Like you don't know. Obviously, Denver and Tampa Bay, but I don't know. Again, if you go from Teddy Bridgewater to Jimmy G, you got a guy that has more playoff experience, but I don't know whether or not that takes you over the hump or not, especially if Aaron Rodgers is the guy that you're targeting. Tampa Bay, perhaps. But it does seem to be one of those teams that's really looking for a quarterback all of a sudden. Like, Ben's gone, now we got to move on. Maybe needed to move on last year, but we're moving on now. Tampa Bay, Brady's finally gone. We got to figure out something because we still have a lot of talent there. But that, I'm not going to say window, but our time is either now or it's never. And it may be never because they got it last year. Then they were able to bring everybody back, but that money's about to come due. Yeah. And they're not going to be able to retain everybody going forward. Other people are going to offer them more money. That team's about to get broken up. So I wouldn't, what the other thing I thought about was, I think it's very possible Bruce Arians going to leave too. Before it's all said and done. Yeah. Because I don't know, like, what's he sticking around for? He won his Super Bowl. Yeah. And now Brady is gone, which I think probably means Gronk retires too. Yeah,
right? 100%. He was miserable playing with other quarterbacks in New England. Or did he actually play with another quarterback? No, he didn't.
He played with Jimmy G.
He played with Jimmy G. Yeah, no, I don't see Gronk doing that one. If he does, I'd be super shocked. And this is the thing too about BA. BA, I like his, the way he operates sometimes, but BA is becoming a little bit dated in his approach. Like that helmet smacking that he did to a pro player, like BA could have got his head knocked off by doing some stuff like that. And his attitude, I love his progressiveness as far as his coaching staff and, just elevating his assistants. He elevates all his assistants. But I think his style is on his way out the door. And like you said, with Tom not there, like what does he have to prove at this point?
Yeah, there's nothing left. Like there was nothing left to prove for. I mean, both those guys. I mean, Brady, they could just rename a whole wing. There was literally an article at ESPN.com written that he should go in 3 times into the Hall of Fame for 7-year stints in 3 different spots of his career. Wow. His first 7, his middle 7, his next 7. Now that's a think piece, and obviously that's not going to happen. But just the idea of how impressive all those stretches of his career were. And Gronk's going right in. Like Gronk is arguably the greatest tight end in the history of the NFL. When he's been right, he's been one of the most unstoppable forces we've ever seen. He helped change what the tight end position could become and paved the ways for the Travis Kelce's and George Kittles and Darren Wallers and a lot of those guys. Of course, the road was paved by Antonio Gates and people before him, but he took it to a different level in New England with the chemistry he had with Tom Brady and showed what a great quarterback tight end mix can be. 615-737-1045. I know we got Darrington. We'll get to his phone call right after the break. I see choosing violence. So that intrigues me.
I see
that intrigues me.
That's why I was laughing.
615-737-1045. Be right back. It's JMart and Ramon, 1045 The Zone. 104.5 The Zone. Fourth hour of the show, rolling right along here on this Wednesday. 615-737-1045. That's the telephone number, 737-1045. We said we get to Darrington's call, and it says, just the description that I see in the Slack just says choosing violence. Let's just bring Darrington into discussion and see what's happening.
He's
here.
been on a tear lately, man.
Good morning, my beautiful people.
Oh, don't come in here like that, Darrington. That's how you always start off, man.
I'm just saying, it's Wednesday. I hope everyone is doing wonderful today. I just want anybody that's an Alabama fan know that Georgia still is your champions. They did beat y'all. Yeah. Another thing for all you Titans fans, you didn't make it to the Super Bowl. Yeah. Okay. Next, everybody's upset about Tom Brady. Good riddance. He ain't even the GOAT. Joe Montana is. He couldn't play in that era anyway, sucker. Anyway, yes. So there's three guys: Chris Godwin, either the receivers from Alabama, and Michael Gallup. Which one does the Titans go get? Because they all got torn ACLs, and we know how John Robinson likes to draft. If you ain't hurt, then you ain't gonna work. That's just how it goes around here. So I just want to know which one of them injured bums he gonna go get next. Because that's what we do. We gonna get a whole bunch of has-beens, could-have-beens, and should-have-beens. So I was just trying to figure out. All right, people, that's all I had today. Y'all have a good one. Y'all remember, tighten up. Yeah.
Some heifers, hee-haws, and hula hoops.
Yeah, hula hoops, scallywags.
So what's funny is, as he was mentioning that, I'm like, does he know all these guys he's mentioning are injured? Then I'm like, oh, yes, he does.
The Alabama receiver.
That's what I love about Darrington. He's going to own the villain role, man. He's going to play heel.
And says tighten up at the end of his call.
Yeah, but he said tighten up, and then he went.
I don't know if he's a fan or not at this point.
No, he's a fan of Darrington.
Who is this Joker, man? He's legitimately the Joker. You need him in your society.
Nah. He just wants to watch the world burn, man.
That's a gimmick infringement upon Nate Washington.
It is. Nate is definitely the Joker.
I don't even know what to say about that. I don't know.
You wrecked this.
Are we supposed to actually parse this? Like, are we supposed to actually talk about this? We had a caller mention Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, okay. Jameson Williams is a heck of a player. I don't know that that's a position of need most in the first round because, again, you don't have a second round pick.
No.
You got what, the 26th pick? Is that what it is?
Yeah, 26. That's what happens when you're good.
It.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Everything's going to be all right.
Everything's going to be all right.
Everything's all right.
To that point, though, would you want Jameson Williams? Right?
I mean, he's a heck of a player.
He's a heck of a player. Like, will he drop because of this?
I don't know.
If
he's healthy, ACL tears aren't what they once were.
No.
This isn't like 10 years ago where is he ever going to be the same? Like, a lot of people get over ACLs now.
Mm-hmm. We've watched Joe Burrow get over ACL also.
Him and Mechie both went down. Mechie went down the SEC title game, and then Jameson Williams went down early in the national title game. Both those guys are going to make NFL rosters.
I think they both
Jalen Waddle went down last year. He was a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
A top 15 pick.
That's what I was going to say.
Top 10 pick.
Both of them are still going first round. Would it be nice to have them? Oh, my God. Absolutely. Do you get Mechie because he was injured first? Or what?
I don't know. I don't know that that's the decision-making process. You get the one you think is the better player.
Yeah, but as far as timeline goes and impact, like it's like 3 or 4 weeks
difference, though, right?
It's different between pup or just playing.
And it also, again, guys recover at different rates. There's a lot of dudes ain't coming back from what Derrick Henry tried to come back from that season.
Yeah.
Some would argue maybe he shouldn't have tried to come back from it that fast.
Yeah, I did see Darrington at B-Dubs. Yeah, you're right. Darrington, I know who you are. You fit the description. Darrington is good at it, man. I cannot lie. His troll game is real, and he goes across all platforms, too. I heard him on Tannehill the other day. I was like, oh, my God. Darrington is leaning into Tannehill right now.
Everything's all right.
Everything's all right.
Hey, Mon, tell me this. Have people gotten off of Ryan Tannehill yet?
No.
I already knew the answer. That's why I asked it.
Oh, somebody in the chat said no. Ryan Tannehill is going to Seattle, and Russell is coming here. Russell Wilson is coming here to Nashville.
How deep I gotta dig for you to pipe down?
We also had somebody yesterday that wanted to trade away Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry for Aaron Rodgers. I've also seen people just say, just cut him, let him go.
Just take the hit, just take the cap hit, just to get him out of here.
Some people said they give up their own kid just to get rid of Ryan Tannehill also.
Can we discuss the way people talked about Ryan Tannehill 2 months ago and how they're talking about him right now?
At the beginning of the season. Remember?
One thing that I've learned, at least I hope I've learned it. Now we'll see whether or not I'm able to put it into action in the fall. Is you're not going to hear me start talking about this guy's going to be coach of the year in week 8.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear me say this guy's going to be the MVP this year in week 8. You might hear me say something like, hey, if the vote was today, it would go to X.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of football that's left to be played. We react so to the extreme.
Yeah, we do.
About everything. And I don't mean we just in terms of this show or any other show. I mean just we as a society. Like we react so hard to absolutely everything that we end up looking like idiots so very often.
Yeah.
Yep. You weren't wrong about what you thought about Ryan Tannehill 2 months ago. You weren't wrong because you were looking at him as a regular season quarterback, and regular season and postseason are two different things. But I wonder how many of the people now that want to deposit him off in a nearby mail slot were the guys that were like, where's his respect? He's a top 5 quarterback 2 months ago.
Because it's the same crowd is what you're saying, right?
It's the exact same people. I mean, and I'm not like calling anybody out. I mean, everybody is guilty of doing this at different times, but we continue to say since the outset of this show that Ryan Tannehill is the definition of the meme with the guy that's looking at the girl while his girlfriend's behind his back with the incredulous face. Ryan Tannehill is the girlfriend with the incredulous face.
Yep.
The other quarterback, and it can just be a silhouette. Doesn't even have to be anybody in specifics. It's just the other versus the guy that you've got. That right there has always, I think, been the reality. And now you're seeing it because what you're seeing right now, it's like anybody. I mean, Aaron Rodgers lost a game.
Yep.
Tom Brady lost a game and then retired. Ben Roethlisberger's great, but, you know, we saw what happened there when they got into the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes just lost a game. Josh Allen lost a game. Ryan Tannehill lost a game, and it's like never heard of him.
You know where I've got a sense of calm over Ryan Tannehill as of late? Every football player or person that's been in it said Ryan can do it. Ryan Tannehill can do it. It's like Ryan's not that bad. Like the thing is, there are worse quarterbacks out there. Like Ryan's not that bad. So you got to look at the pieces around him or the people that's setting up the pieces around him. Like you know who he is. The idea, we had this conversation, I'll never forget, early September, October, throughout the summer. Ryan Tannehill is the best quarterback since who? And almost everybody to a person.
Mac 9.
Yes. To Mac 9. So what are you saying when you judge Ryan Tannehill then? Well, are you saying Mac 9 wasn't that good and Ryan Tannehill is worse than him? No, you're not saying that. You just get caught up in the moment, and that's okay too. We all do that. Who was it? Somebody just said that in the section in the zone chat. Donald B, reacting quickly and insanely is the biggest problem with social media. Facts.
It is. It's absolutely right. It's a knee-jerk reaction. You got to get something out there. You have to be heard. You don't stop and think. You don't know the full story 95% of the time when you're commenting.
Yeah.
It's never as good as you think or as bad as you think. Almost never is that going to be true. That you think it's 100. No, it's probably 90 at best. You think it's 0. No, it's probably 15 or 20. There's probably a lot of other factors in the midst of that. But this rush to have some kind of a scorching take. And just, I feel like it's actually informing just the general public. I think their takes have gotten hotter as well.
Yeah,
and it is social media that has made it, because it's like, I want to say the thing that's then going to become the bigger thing. I want to be part of this chorus. And because of the echo chamber that oftentimes you fall into there, all of a sudden you don't even feel it's okay anymore to then come back and say, you know what, Ryan Tannehill's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just spirals downhill from there. Let's go to RJ in Phoenix. RJ, what's going on?
RJ?
What's going on, fellas, man? I got to set the record straight this morning.
Come on.
So you're saying Darrington is the Joker. So let me give you his origin story, man. Okay, so Darrington made his first appearance on the Buck. First of all, Darrington is a Seattle Seahawks fan.
Oh.
Okay, so Darrington made his first appearance on the Buck Rising show the week before we played Seattle, talking all this trash, how they was gonna beat the Titans. Now, if you remember, we smashed Seattle in Seattle this week, this year.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't hear nothing else from Darrington on the Buck Rising show. He popped up 3 weeks later after tucking his tail after that loss. He popped up 3 weeks later on 3HL talking trash about Ryan Tannehill. Now, so I want all the Titans fans listening. Anytime Darrington come on the radio, don't take this clown serious. He is a Seattle Seahawks fan. He is still hurt from that loss, man. Come on now. Tighten up.
There it is.
RJ, Dateline RJ in Phoenix.
He keeps receipts, man.
But again, we already said Darrington's a troll and wants to play that role and likes to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And that's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. Here is Jim White had put up this article yesterday about the Senior Bowl and everything, and John Robinson and J-Rob, who will join Buck Rising a little bit later on this morning. He said about Ryan Tannehill, quote, I think Ryan's a leader. I think Ryan's tough. I think Ryan's made a lot of great plays for us. He is our quarterback. I don't know there's a quarterback who stands in the pocket and looks down the barrel of a blitz and throws the ball as good as he does. I know he works extremely hard, loves his teammates, is competitive. He's played a lot of good football. To have a micro evaluation over one game is not fair to any player. I think you have to look at the scope of the body of work and what he has done for this football team since he has been here, unquote. So I would say Joe Burrow stares down the barrel of a blitz and throws the ball better than Ryan Tannehill if John Robinson were asking me.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at the scope of the body of work, totally right. That said, I'm probably going to say Ryan Tannehill can't get it done in the playoffs until I see Ryan Tannehill get it done in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the other side of this. It's just like nobody's saying he can't win games in October. I need you to win games in January.
Mm-hmm.
For my football team, I need you to be able to win a game in January. That I think that right there is the biggest disconnect. And of course, as long as he's a quarterback, John Robinson's going to back him. He's not going to bury him.
I mean,
he's not lying right there, but he's got to be political about it.
What you're saying though is across all sports spectrums, as far as being individual. Like Melo's great. Melo's yet to actually carry a team all the way and get one. Same thing goes for Russ. Yeah, great. Yet to drag a team with them to the finals and take them and actually get the ring. Like I said, Westbrook's another one like that. But I think a lot of people looking for the rare air, meaning Kobe with the team that he had, meaning Kawhi Leonard going to the Raptors and getting one, meaning Giannis in Milwaukee grabbing one. Like, those dudes are rare, okay? But every fan base wants that, especially the mid-market teams. Like, I mentioned Milwaukee. I mentioned the Raptors. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kobe team, like, he dragged them to the end. I know he had Powell and other, a supporting cast, but nobody thought he would win one without Shaq. So there's a bunch of those situations right there where it's like, man, why not us? When are we going to go find a guy that's a star that can also drag us to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think the problem is, and look, I've talked about this many times as it relates to Nick Saban, and a lot of coaches have lost their jobs in the SEC simply because they're not Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
But then they've been replaced by guys that, guess what, also aren't Nick Saban. And it's like, okay, you get rid of Rick Barnes, who are you replacing him with? Ron mentioned that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. The problem for Titans fans or people like Titans fans to have a quarterback that they like but don't love.
Yeah.
Is that they see quarterbacks they love.
Oh.
They know they exist. They're on the shelf somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I could get in the store before you and get a Patrick Mahomes, I'd take him first.
Yep.
I'd take Josh Allen. I would take Aaron Rodgers. I would take Russell Wilson. I would take whoever the guy is. The guy you have, he's all right.
Yeah.
But you still want that car that you saw that drove past you that's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you like your car. It's got some miles on it, but you haven't had to take it into service too often. It's gotten you to a lot of places. but you still want that. You still want the Tesla that's driving up next to you. You still want that vehicle. And I think that's the problem, is because the other side exists, because you can see it and you see how successful it's been. It makes you then look at what you have in a completely different light.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's nothing technically wrong with what you've got, but when you see that there's better out there, it's hard not to desire that. And in the process, I think, devalue the guy that you have. Let's go to Ramo in Springfield. What's going on, Ramo?
What's up, guys? You guys doing all right this morning?
We're good. Good
Yep,
morning.
hope you are.
Hey, man, I'm calling about Ryan Tannehill. I've learned over the years I don't get too high on him when he's playing great, and I don't get too low on him when he's playing bad. I think he is what he is. He's a average quarterback in the league. He's not your top 5 quarterbacks. He's not your top 10. He's right outside of that. He's your third-tier Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr. Yeah, and I think what frustrates the fans so much, especially like this year specifically, is just seeing how good the team is all around. And the way we see it is like we're just that one quarterback play away.
Yeah.
To, getting through the playoffs and making that Super Bowl run and being there in the next couple of weeks in LA. So I think that's what frustrates everybody so much. But like I said, it's unfair, all the criticism he's getting right now. But with that being said, we just want somebody to get us there, because our team is probably one of the well-rounded teams in the NFL right now.
Is.
That's all I got, guys. Thanks.
Look, if you get
That's
good
a great
quarterback play with the
explanation.
roster that you had, you're probably going to win.
Oh.
Like that's, and I think that's it. And look, his
Yo.
point right there, again, it's never as good as you think it is and never as bad as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we need to try and react.
Man.
When he throws for 400 yards, he's not the greatest quarterback to ever live. When he throws 3 interceptions, he's not the worst quarterback that ever lived. Never getting too high, never getting too low is a good way, I think, to evaluate, especially a guy like him, where it is at times hard. And last year, even more so because of the injuries.
Right.
Gerardo and Amarillo. What's going on,
Hey,
Gerardo?
Gerardo.
What's up, guys?
What's going on,
Hey,
man?
Hey.
Nah, blessed every day. Every day, brother.
Absolutely.
But so real quick, shout out to RJ for keeping that receipt, man. That's true. I do remember Homeboy being on the Red Dollar Bill show and him. Yeah, I was like, yeah. As soon as you said that, it sparked up a memory. That's so true. But real quick on that comment you said about JMart. I remember whenever Mr. Wyatt tweeted it out, I was like, dude, you know what that says to me? That's like whenever you were a kid, you were driving by Domino's and you're like, Mom, please, they got a special today. She's like, honey, we got frozen pizza at the house. That's equivalent to me. I'm like, bro, it's like, yeah, you're grateful. Your mom, she's out here hustling, keeping food in the fridge for you. But you know that hot and fresh out of the oven Domino's pizza is so much more better and delicious in your mouth than the freaking DiGiorno's in the oven. You feel me?
Yeah.
So that's what I relate to, man.
Yeah. That's exactly. I feel that.
It's a hell of an analogy right there.
Between him and Ramo is team envy right now. That's exactly what it is. Like hearing him and Ramo is like, we're good too. We're just one piece away. And I hate that it falls on Ryan, but Ryan is the center point of it all. And still hadn't let up, Jay.
And here's the other thing. If you're one piece away and your piece is a quarterback, that means you're about 50% away. Because that's how important a quarterback is to winning.
Yeah.
That was not supposed to be a come down moment. I just think it was a moment of truth.
It is.
If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have much.
Yeah. Or you need a crew of 52 people surrounding him. The way Baltimore did, the way
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, with
Flacco.
Trent, like you need an army of 52 around him to ensure that he's going to be all right.
All right, AB. 615-737-1045 is the telephone number. Inky Johnson, Midweek Motivation, is going to finish this off. Yeah. We'll be right back. JMart and Ramon, 1045 The Zone.
Everything's all right.
Welcome back. Finishing up the hashtag fastest 4 hours in radio here on this Wednesday. Appreciate all your contributions as well as our guests. If you missed any part of today's show, Mike McCarthy, Front Office Sports, Eric Cain from Knoxville. We replayed our conversation from yesterday with Ryan Clark. Obviously, podcast is wherever you get your podcast. Drop us that 5-star review. We greatly appreciate that. Helps our growth, helps our advertisers, helps everything surrounding the JMart and Ramon experience. Of course, you can find us on Twitter at JMart and Ramon. Midweek Motivation. Look, the rain is here, and it's not going anywhere for a couple of days. I look tomorrow. It looks like 2.5 inches potentially just tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
God, Nashville, drive safely. That's the biggest thing. There's no need for any speed demons out here today or the next few days.
No question about that. Sony has agreed to buy Bungie.
I saw that.
For $3.6 billion.
With a B.
And the Xbox, Microsoft just bought Blizzard for $68.7 billion, all cash.
God.
And Blizzard, of course, is World of Warcraft and all of that kind of thing. So they posted a $2 billion revenue in Q3 of last year. So there's big business there. And at the same time, and I saw this and I was kind of sad by it. Wordle has become a thing. The new word game that was created by a guy in the UK, I believe it is, during the pandemic for he and his partner. And just it's one a day. It pops up at midnight, I think, in our time zone. And then you have 24 hours to play it. It's a 5-letter word that you have to guess in 6 different guesses that eliminates letters that goes along. And you don't get to play unlimited. You get to play one time. So it's not designed to take up your day. It's just designed to be something fun to do. Well, he just sold it to the New York Times for low 7 figures.
What?
Because it had become such a big thing. David Ubben is why I got hooked on it, but a bunch of people I know playing it. And New York Times says, we're going to try to keep it free. Yeah, I bet you are.
They're going to let you buy other chances. That's the first thing they're going to do. Buy an extra chance.
Of course, there's going to be in-app purchases at some point.
No, maybe it'll be you can play the one for free every day, but if you want to play an archive or whatever like that, a generator, then you add it to your game subscription, which I think is $5 a month. It's not a lot, even though I don't really want to give money to the New York Times. But I liked it when it was free. More so because it was just kind of cool to have something free on this dude's website where he wasn't trying to profit. Same time, somebody wants to pay me 7 figures for my word game that I created during the pandemic for fun. It's hard for me to say I wouldn't have taken that money.
Oh, I'm taking it all day long. It's called America, right?
It is indeed. It is also time, and we call it the Midweek Motivation for a reason, because when we get to Wednesday, especially a rainy Wednesday, we definitely need a little bit of a pick-me-up, so we welcome in on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline to help finish us off the right way. Inky Johnson, what's going on, brother? How are you?
My guys, I'm great, man. How are you guys?
We're good, Ink. Man, everywhere I go, even in Hendersonville, man, Inky's such a great guy. I'm like, you don't know the Inky I know.
Hey, it's only right, Mom. I expected that response from you. Anything else would have been uncivilized.
That's beautiful.
Yes, man. I hope you well, my guy.
Oh man, all good, man. I want to kick us off with a quote, man. It says, "This too shall pass." It says, "When things are bad, remember it won't always be this way. Take it one day at a time. When things are good, remember it won't always be this way. Enjoy every moment." And so, man, I want to talk about a movie. I want to take a snippet from a movie and land the plane with the message, extracting it from the movie. So it's a movie called Miracle, right? And it's about this hockey coach. He was a collegiate hockey coach, and he got the 1980 Olympic hockey team. And so he got all these talented players, right? But they had been playing against each other, and so they had a certain level of animosity from things that had happened prior to them being selected to be on the Olympic team. And so when they went to select the team, he had assistant coaches there with him, the head coach. And they felt as if when he selected the roster, they allotted a week for it to happen, right? They pulled in some of the most talented kids in the country, and they allotted them a week to pick the team. And after the first day, the head coach had picked the team, and all the guys was like, "Man, what are you doing? We allotted a week for a reason, right? So you can evaluate the talent, look at the guys for a week." He was like, no, I already know what I want. It just took me a day. It was like, what do you mean it took a day? He was like, I already know what I'm looking for. They say, yeah, but the list doesn't have some of the most talented players in the country on it. He said, I'm not looking for some of the most talented players. I'm looking for specific players to do specific things, right? And so he said, I know what I'm looking for. And so when he started training the guys, right, he was doing different tough training methods. And so people started to question what he was building, right? People started to question it. And so he would always ask them a question when guys got fatigued, when guys wanted to break, when guys wanted to stop. He would run them after games, right? After hockey matches, he would get them back on the ice and say, do it again. Since you guys want to look in the stands, do it again. And he would tell his assistant coach, hit the whistle. And he hit the whistle so many times one night that the people in the arena literally cut the lights off, right? And so as he was hitting the whistle, he asked the guys, what team do you play for? And they would always say, oh, I play for, let's say if they play for the University, I play for the University of Tennessee. I play for the University of Georgia. And they weren't getting it, right? They weren't getting the message that he was trying to make them understand. And so one night after a hockey match, he pushed them to the point to where guys was falling out. His assistant coaches that had it. It was like, man, you're going to hurt somebody. And one of the guys got it, Mo. He said, I did it. He said, what team do you? He said, the United States of America, the Olympic team. The coach said, great, you got it. And the message he was pressing to him was, it's two powerful principles. Always understand what are you fighting for and why are you fighting. Because it's hard to beat a group of people that see something, but it's even harder to beat a group of people that believe in what they see. Every single day, always understand what are you fighting for and why are you fighting for it. Go be great.